Hello everyone, welcome to Byju's Exam Prep IAS. In this session of Mains Current Affairs webinar, we'll be looking at some of the very important topics that have been in news in the last 1 month, in the month of June. But before we go there, I want to make some important announcements. So this announcement is regarding accessing the Byju's Exam Prep app. So I hope most of you have already started using the app. So this is how it goes. You have to download the Byju's Exam Prep app from the Play Store. So you register using your mobile number. You log in using your mobile number that is registered with Byju's. You will get an OTP. You validate it. Then you go take the option continue with Google. Then inside you take the IAS option. You have to select the IAS option. That is the course you have gone. Right? Click on the IAS icon. And then you come to the inside interface. So if it is Byju's tablet learning program students, you will find a home button down below. So if you scroll down the home button, you will see initially you will be seeing free classes. After that, you will be seeing the paid premium classes. When it comes to the Byju's home learning program, that is the BHLP or online classroom program students. So you will be getting the classes in the My Classroom option in the bottom right corner. Okay, so I hope that is very clear to you. And next is a very important announcement. This is regarding the starting of unit test for the year 2022-23. So it will be starting from 10th of July, this coming Sunday. So you can access the test from the Byju's Exam Prep app. Okay, so remember, from now onwards, you can access your unit test from the Byju's Exam Prep app. Okay, so I'll be telling you the path you have to follow within the app to access the test. For online classroom students, that is the BHLP students, you go to the Byju's Exam Prep app, you take the My Classroom tab inside that, then you go to the IAS or BTLP English course, then you go to the view course option, then you go to the dashboard. Within the dashboard, you have a syllabus option, and within that, you can find unit test 22-23. Okay, so you can maybe take a screenshot of this image so that you don't forget later. So for tablet learning program students, similar path, Byju's Exam Prep app, home tab. Inside that, IAS BTLP English course. Inside that, view course dashboard. Inside that, syllabus, and within that, unit test 22-23. Okay, so I hope it's very clear. So all those students who are calling up the mentorship helpline number regarding the starting of unit test, so this is the happy news for you. Okay, now we move on to the major topics of the day. So these are the 5 topics that we'll be discussing today. So first is women and reproductive autonomy in India. Second is an economist take on the question of freebies, which are announced during elections by various parties. Third is the role of caste in economic transformation from an Indian context. Fourth is the strains on Indo-Russia or India-Russia defense cooperation. So what is happening with the Ukraine war going on? And finally, growing space tourism, is it a risk to the climate? Okay, so most of these topics are important both from a general study standpoint as well as from an essay standpoint. So do pay attention very closely. Okay, so first of all, let us start with the first topic, that is women and reproductive autonomy in India. Okay, so first of all, let us try to understand what reproductive autonomy means. Okay, it's a simple word, right? There is reproduction, there is autonomy. Autonomy means freedom, right? So it simply means freedom over the reproductive lives of the individual. Okay, so as we know, as far as the human beings are concerned, we have the man, the woman, and the third genders. So women are biologically predisposed to give birth. right? So the autonomy, the reproductive autonomy largely pertain to the freedom of woman over her reproductive lives. Okay, so that is something you have to be very clear in your mind. And now I'll tell you the context why we are taking up this topic for discussion now. Okay, so it is greatly inspired by a recent Supreme Court judgment. I am very sure that you would have heard about this judgment in the news. So the recent judgment overturned the landmark Roe versus Wade judgment of 1973. Okay, so I'll give you a bit clarity here. The recent judgment is the Dobson, Dobbs versus Jackson's Women Health Organization. This was the recent case. This case overturned the Roe versus Wade judgment of 1973. Okay, this is what happened. So let me tell you what this Roe versus Wade judgment was. In the Roe versus Wade judgment, the Supreme Court declared abortion as legal in United States. Okay, abortion was declared as legal. What is abortion? Abortion means putting an end to a children's life, right? Or the putting an end to the fetus, right? When the mother is carrying that the baby inside the womb is known as fetus. So putting an end to the life of the fetus. Why do we do that? Most often we do it because of some threat to the life of the woman or the mother. Okay, so abortion was made legal in United States through the Roe versus Wade judgment. Okay, now why do you think abortion being legal is a progressive thing, or why overturning that is a case for big misery for women folk? Okay, that is what we have to see. So as a result of this particular judgment, the laws governing reproductive autonomy in India have come under spotlight after this particular judgment. Okay, so what is the Supreme Court judgment on Dobbs versus Jackson? In that, the Supreme Court said abortion is no more legal. Okay, so we are upturning the Roe versus Wade judgment. Now they have said the question on abortion, whether abortion can be done or not, can be taken by the independent states in the US federal system. That is, there are 50 states that constitute what we know as the United States of America. So out of that, the states can themselves decide should abortion be legal within their state or not. So what will happen? So all those states, or all those states with a conservative background, that is the Republican Party supporters, all those states would be going for making abortion illegal, or they would be going for banning abortion, while the Democrats or the liberal minded states would be permitting abortion or making abortion legal or continuing with the Roe versus Wade scenario. Okay, this is what is going to happen. Okay, so when the question of abortion comes, so you have to also know why this autonomy of abortion should be lying with women, right? Because see, all these unwanted pregnancies or unwanted pregnancies resulting in childbirth. So what happens is that if the parents are not ready for the children, or if these children are born out of maybe rape or incest or something like that, so bringing that child into the world could be a much more misery scenario for the child, right? So that is the reason why abortion, the possibility of legalizing abortion has been given, and also to save the lives of the mother in times of the child being a threat to the life of the mother. Okay, so we'll look into the need for reproductive autonomy from a multiple standpoint. See, when you're writing UPSC mains answers, thing that you have to keep in mind is your idea should not be to go in depth into the topic, but it should be to go broad. You have to touch the topic from multiple standpoints. Okay, so UPSC is looking to select people who can articulate, who can talk about a topic from multiple standpoints. They don't want experts, but they want people who can see an issue from a comprehensive view, because that is what a bureaucrat is supposed to do, right? They are a generalist administrator. So we will try to look at the need for reproductive autonomy from multiple standpoints. First of all, from the angle of health, that is the most primary thing, right? Okay, so let me give you some facts, especially when it comes to Indian scenario. In India, the unsafe abortions has been determined as the leading cause of maternal mortality rate. MMR is maternal mortality rate. That means number of mothers that die during 1 lakh childbirth. Okay, when 1 lakh new births happen, what is the number of mothers who die? That is the maternal mortality rate. Okay, so unsafe abortions are a leading cause of MMR. Now we have to, at this point, we have to understand why unsafe abortions happen in a country. Okay, or why there is no opportunity for safe abortions. So here what you have to understand is, even though abortion is legal in India, we'll come to all that. Even though abortion is legal in India, see, India is a society with a patriarchal mindset. That is the mindset of male dominance. That is, man are superior to woman. That mindset exists in Indian society. So they think that women shouldn't have rights over abortion. That is one angle. And most often, when a woman becomes pregnant, the choice about should she give birth to that child or should she do abortion if it is one unwanted pregnancy, that normally doesn't rest with the women. Okay, so and if it's a kid born out of rape or something, okay, nobody wants to, or most of them wouldn't want to give birth to that child. So in that case, all these situations we go for abortions. But even though legally abortions are permitted, so when this mother go to the hospital for abortions, what the hospitals will say that, okay, we need signature from your parents. Okay, it is not legally required. There is no legal requirement that before abortion you should get the signature of your parents or husband. There is no legal requirement like that, but the hospital will insist on it. Okay, so what will happen, the poor woman, mostly she would be trying to get abortion without getting the parents know, because if they know, they won't permit it, right? Again, because of the patriarchal scenario in India. I'm not saying it happens across about 100%, but that issue remains. So what will happen, this woman will go to a place, it will go to clandestine places, very shady places. It won't be a proper hospital. It would be mostly run by quacks or frauds who pose as doctors. So under very unhygienic situation, people without enough expertise in carrying out abortions will be doing it. Okay, and possibly, most probably, would result in the death of the mother. Okay, so this is a scenario of unsafe abortion leading to maternal mortality. Okay, I hope you get the picture of it. Second scenario is that when the childbirth happened to an unhealthy woman. So why would childbirth happen to an unhealthy woman? Okay, so say in India, you have to understand, a good percentage of women get married maybe somewhere between 15 to 18 years. Okay, you might think 15 is not even marriageable age, isn't it 18? So how can you get married at 15? Yeah, but it happens. It happens across the country. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So these are some of the marriageable age of women. It's a good percentage of women get married, especially from rural India. If they don't have a job, if they are not doing education, in all this scenario, they get married off. So just imagine this time period in your life. I hope most of you would have passed this stage in your life, this age I am saying. So what would have been your physical condition, your mental condition? Were you fit to carry a baby? Or if it is a male I am talking about, so were you fit to be a parent? Right? So none of us are prepared at that stage in life, right? So when women get married at an young age and suddenly she gets pregnant within another 1 year, so we are facing a scenario where a really unhealthy woman going to become a mother. Okay, unhealthy in the sense both physically as well as mentally. Okay, chances are high that they would be unhealthy in both this scenario. So what would happen to the child? Okay, the child that would be coming out of an unhealthy woman would be an unhealthy child, right? So we don't want our next generation to be unhealthy right at the birth, right? So because that is going to affect our next generation, right? So we don't want that to happen. So the idea of reproductive autonomy is very important. So the women should have total freedom over their reproductive lives. Women should have the right to decide whether they should want a pregnancy or not want a pregnancy, whether they should use contraceptives. Contraceptives means medical tools that we use to avoid getting pregnant. Okay, whether they should use contraceptives, whether they should go for abortion. All these questions should lie with the women. Okay, that is the idea of reproductive autonomy. Because if that is not there, the health of the mother could be at risk, leading to possible death of the mother, or the health of the newborn child could be at risk, leading to young individuals who are largely unproductive or sick. Okay, so that is the first scenario you have to keep in mind from a health angle, the need for reproductive autonomy from a health angle. Next, coming to the rights angle. Okay, so the human right or the fundamental right angle. First thing is women's bodily autonomy, right? So women is the one who is giving birth. Okay, so they should have the final call on everything concerning it. Okay, so the women should be in a position to decide when they should get pregnant, because this physical health or mental well-being of women or the mother, the would-be mother, it's very crucial for the health of the baby, right? You would have read that in books, or you would have seen that in movies or in documentaries. In all these places you would have seen these references to the importance of mental and physical health of the mother, how that will have a bearing on the baby, right? So the total autonomy should lie with the women. In this case, in this rights angle, you will have to know some important Supreme Court judgments in this context. So one is the Puttasamy case. So this is something you know from the right to privacy. Okay, in the Puttasamy case, the court has clearly said the right of abortion, right? The women's right to do abortion comes under right to privacy, which is part of Article 21, that is right to life and personal liberty. So that has been unambiguously stated by the Supreme Court in the Puttasamy case. So this is something you have to keep in mind that can be used in your answer. Okay, so the rights angle, the judiciary clearly stands behind reproductive autonomy in this country. So we'll come to the legislative stance very soon, but this is the judiciary stand. Okay, secondly, the women should have the freedom to have child when desire, willingness and capability for raising a child exists. So what does all this mean? What is the desire? Desire means the parents, both the parents or the mother at least, or the women who is going to be the mother, at least they should have the desire to have the child. Okay, so now the question that would pop up in our mind is, doesn't everyone desire for a child? Okay, so everyone might desire, but we don't know at what point in time they might desire. Okay, so just imagine a woman who is getting married at 17 or 18 against her wish. Okay, which normally happens in India. We know that happens a lot in India. Arranged marriages happen against the wishes of women a lot in India. So she would have been in college or something. She would have been doing her degree first year or something. She gets married. Okay, immediately she gets pregnant. Okay, so it's a matter of embarrassment. She has to go to the college also. It could be a matter of embarrassment for some women. So the child is not desired. She doesn't desire that child at that point in time. She might desire the child maybe after her degree. She gets a job, she's financially independent to upbring the child, right? So everyone have those sense about how to upbring the child, right? They want to give everything possible for the child, but when they are in a situation where they are not fully ready because of economic situations or social situations, they shouldn't be allowed to have the child, or they shouldn't have to take up the responsibility of giving birth. Okay, so this desire situation is very important, and the willingness, again, it's very similar, and the capability for raising a child, that's very important. See, often in India we don't talk about the capacity of parents to bring a child, right? Upbring a child, not just give birth. That is the easiest part, right? That's a biological process, very easy. But once the child comes into the world, there is a socio-economic challenge that is being faced. You have to give them nutritious food. Just imagine the cost of education in this country. Just imagine the cost of hospital care in this country, right? So when you take all in that into consideration, maybe not everyone can afford having a child when they are financially not well off. Okay, so this economic and physical and mental capability for raising a child should exist, and if that do not exist, they should have the freedom to avoid the child, or maybe commit abortion. Okay, third is, it's part of right to privacy. Again, the same thing in the Puttasamy case. So I'll give you one or two more cases where the court has unambiguously stood for reproductive autonomy. So there is a Suchita Sachdev case. It's very interesting. In this case, a woman got pregnant through rape. Okay, so she had to undergo rape, and as a result of that, she got pregnant. So now I think the parents didn't want the child, so they moved the court. So court said, okay, you can go for abortion, but the women said she wanted the child. Okay, so even that could also happen. So that is also part of the autonomy of the women, right? Because she can have the child if she so decides. That is exactly what the court said. The court said the right to dignity, autonomy, and bodily integrity should lie with the woman. Okay, so that was given in the Sujita Sachdev case. Again, you can make a note of it. And the third important case, it was a judgment by the Calcutta High Court. Okay, in this Calcutta High Court judgment, the court permitted abortion for a 34-year-old woman. Okay, sorry, it's not 34. The court permitted abortion. The court permitted abortion when the child was 34 weeks old. Okay, so after pregnant, 34 weeks means it's almost what, 8 months, right? That is too much. I mean, that is a fully grown child, right? Almost a fully grown child. So after almost 8 months, the court permitted abortion because of fetal abnormalities. Fetal abnormality. What does that mean? Fetal abnormalities means the fetus, I said, no, fetus is that baby inside the womb of the mother. So if there is some conditions, maybe some spinal cord damage, some health issues, some irreversible health issues, if that exists in the fetus, it could be visible through the ultrasound scanning. Okay, in that situation, the courts permit even it was almost 8 month old. Okay, so this is a landmark judgment. This is a judgment that allowed abortion at the latest scenario. Okay, we'll come to all this very soon. Okay, so then these were the judicial pronouncements which supported bodily autonomy or reproductive autonomy of women. Coming to social welfare angle, so unwanted children are disadvantaged. So I said no. So when the parents are incapable or they are unwilling to have a child at that point, and still they have to bear the burden of birth. Okay, at that time that becomes a burden. An idea which should be the turning point in the life of a couple, if it is imposed on them, it could become a burden, right? Then the child becomes unwanted. So what will happen when the child becomes unwanted? So the parents may not be that interested in the upbringing of a child, right? So all the health support, all the nutrition that the child should get, all the care, the parental care that the child should get at the initial years, which are very crucial, that might be missed out on the child. So what can happen is that I'll just show a diagram. What can happen is, so the child get disadvantaged in the beginning itself. Okay, so what happened? Healthcare, education gets neglected. Okay, so when this gets neglected, even if the child might be going to school and all, but there would be frequent absenteeism because of the poor health scenario. Okay, so child might either drop out or might fail in some high school. Okay, drop out or fail in the school, might not go for higher education. So the child, once it becomes an adult, the child would be going for some menial job. Okay, so if the parents themselves were poor, that such a situation of an unwanted birth would result in creation of a child also becoming poor. That is something known as intergenerational cycle of poverty. Okay, you can write that down. Intergenerational poverty. Intergenerational poverty, or you could also say that poverty begets poverty. That means poverty giving birth to poverty again. Okay, so the previous generation, the parents were poor, so they didn't take a proper call on childbirth, or they were forced to have a child early. So all these disadvantages came for the child, and the child also, as it grows into an adult, becomes poor. Okay, so this is also known as the vicious cycle of poverty. Okay, so you could use these diagrams. You have to do the diagram in a much better way, much neater way. Pardon my unclean handwriting. Okay, so you could use this in a proper way in your answers. The vicious cycle of poverty, how an unwanted birth or how women not having reproductive autonomy could lead to the next generation becoming poor. That intergenerational movement of poverty could happen, right? So that is the big picture you have to think when you hear about reproductive autonomy. Okay, so that is a social welfare angle. So as you are all UPSC aspirants, so when you hear about reproductive autonomy, your question is not about mother, self, child health. That is not what should bother you. You should bother about the fact that when the mother doesn't have full reproductive autonomy, when there are unwanted children born in this country, they might face all these socio-economic disadvantages that would result in this intergenerational cycles of poverty, that would result in the child going into this vicious cycle of poverty, right? We are not able to create productive individuals in this country who can take the economy forward. Okay, so very important thing, you have to keep that in mind. So it is in this context of the need for reproductive autonomy we are going to discuss India's crucial legislation supporting it. So at this point I want to introduce, so there are three pillars of India's reproductive autonomy legislations. So one is the Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act 2021. Second is the Prevention of Child Marriage Act 2021. Third is Surrogacy Regulation Act 2021. So these are the three things we'll be discussing. So this is again a picture or a diagram you can put in your answer, the three pillars that will decide India's reproductive autonomy. So let us look at medical termination of pregnancy to begin with. Okay, so I'll give you just a small background, not so much important, but just for your better understanding. So prior to 1971, we did not have abortion was not legal in this country. Prior to 1971, what controlled abortion? It was the Indian Penal Code. As per Indian Penal Code, abortion was illegal in this country. Abortion was only permitted when the life of the mother was at stake. Okay, that was the only scenario where abortion was permitted. First thing. Okay, and if somebody performs an abortion, or if there is a miscarriage caused to the mother, these were all punishable at that time. Very primitive scenario. Okay, but so there were so many abortions happening even otherwise. Okay, medically induced abortions were happening. So in 1964, the government set up a Shanti Lal Shah committee. Okay, you can make a note of this. Everyone, please make a note of this committee. A Shanti Lal Shah committee was set up to study about the feasibility of making abortion legal in this country. Is it required? Is it necessary? Why are so many induced abortions happening even though abortion is illegal? So all these things were studied by the Shanti Lal Shah committee, and as a result of that, we got the Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act 1971. Okay, so this is the first phase of the act. This is the 2021 act. It's an amendment of the first one, that is Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act 1971. Okay, so this act made abortion legal. Okay, abortion was legal. First thing, primarily to safeguard the life of the mother itself. That was the criteria there. But also when children was born due to rape or incest. Incest means sexual relation between close family members. So when kids are born out of that, that is also a very taboo or stigmatic scenario in India. So abortion is permitted for that, or abortion for even vulnerable women like differently abled and things like that. So abortion was legal. So they were able to do abortion up to 20 weeks of the gestation period. So what is this gestation period? Okay, so those who have a biology or science background, they would know. So gestation period is the time from the conception of the child, from the time the mother becomes pregnant till the time the mother gives birth to the child. So for human beings, it is 10 months. Okay, so out of this 10 months, up to 20 weeks abortion could be done under MTP Act 1971. 20 weeks means 5 months, right? Up till 5 months abortion was possible. Okay, and this has to be permitted by two registered medical practitioner. They have to sign it, then only this was possible. This was the scenario at that time. So 1964 Shanti Lal Shah committee, MTP 1971, very minimal scope for abortion was created in India. Now coming to 2021 Act, what are its significant features? First of all, they increase the upper gestation limit from 20 to 24 weeks for special category of women, not for all women, but for special category of women. Which are the special category? Including survivors of rape, victims of incest, I already told you what incest is, and other vulnerable women, that is differently able women, minors, etc. For all these special category of women, because of this particular scenario of them, abortion can be permitted up to 24 weeks. That means it is 6 months, right? So you have to know, out of the 10-month gestation period, 6 month means there would be considerable growth of the baby. At that time, the mother and the babies, all these interconnections, there would be considerable interconnections and networks. And at that time, aborting a child could be severely risky for the mother. Okay, so we have increased this 20 to 24 because the abortion technology has improved both in the world as well as in our country. Okay. Secondly, this upper gestation limit to not apply in cases of substantial fetal abnormalities. So if the child is diagnosed with substantial fetal abnormality, that is, there is some genetic disease for the child, maybe its limbs are unformed, or if there is a serious spinal cord damage, we don't want to bring that kind of a children into the world, because it would be huge suffering for the child from day one onwards. In that case, abortion is permitted. So that can be permitted even after 6 months, but it has to be permitted by a 3-doctor member medical board. Okay, in that case, even 6-month window of gestation period can be breached. That is a new scenario and Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act 2021. The next thing is the confidentiality clause. The women seeking abortion, their names, their other details cannot be released out. It cannot be given to a third person. Okay, so earlier when that was done in the MTP Act 1971, the confidentiality was, there was a just fine if you do that. Okay, we know how fines work in India, right? But in this, there is an imprisonment of up to 1 year. So they have may increase the punishment for breaching the confidentiality. And here is a very crucial point. They have brought medical termination of pregnancy access for unmarried women. When can that be accessed? If there is a failure of contraceptive. So unmarried women having in a intercourse or sexual relationship, and if there is a failure of contraceptive, the child born out of that could be aborted under MTP Act. Okay, so what happens? The option of safe abortion is being extended to unmarried women also. So at this point, some of you might be thinking, why are we doing like that? Isn't that bad signal, right? Isn't that being more promoting unmarried women to engage in sex and things like that? So first of all, as state, okay, the state is responsible for the life and property of its citizens. Okay, the life, liberty and property of its citizens. As far as state is concerned, state is not about regulating the private lives of the individual. We don't want to go and regulate what you should do, what you should not do. State is not in the business of that. But once the woman becomes pregnant, the child coming out of it, the safety and the health of the child coming out of it, and the safety of the mother becomes a state's objective or state's responsibility. So the state is creating a condition. So even if unmarried women gets pregnant, and if they don't want that child at that point, they should have the option of abortion. Okay, so don't consider this as violating the cultural norms of this country or anything. It's a perfectly okay medical procedure being availed to them. Okay. So this is the scenario of MTP in India. So now I'll just do a brief comparison with the US system. Okay, US, under the recent Dobbs versus Jackson case, abortion is made illegal, or abortion has to be decided by the states, and at least half of the state would ban abortion. And currently in India, abortion is permitted even for 24 weeks given, but beyond that, for fetal abnormalities, it is even extended to unmarried women. So see the degree of progressiveness that India has acquired in this particular scenario, in this scenario of reproductive autonomy. This is something you have to take away from this particular class. Moving to the second pillar of reproductive autonomy in India, that is the prohibition of child marriage, Amendment Bill 2021. Let us see what the basic provisions of the act is. It aims to raise the legal marriageable age of women from 18 years to 21 years. So we have to get some context for this. Okay, so we know in India, until this bill, women's marriageable age was 18, men's were 21. Okay, 18 and 21 for women, men. Now they are increasing both to 21. So that means there is a parity. Okay, there is equality between both men and women. Was that the purpose? Was that the original purpose of this increase of age? No, that is not the ultimate purpose of it. The ultimate purpose of it is we want to delay the women getting pregnant. We don't want women to get pregnant at a very early age. I told earlier, no, there could be when women get pregnant at the age of 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 years, there could be so many medical complications because they are not, their physical health is not proper to carry a child. See, even though biologically it is possible, theoretically it is possible to have the child, but their body is not that supportive of having it. And even there are medical risks. There are higher risk of eclampsia. Eclampsia means bodily seizures or coma. You could end up in a coma. Okay, there could be severe brain damage. Puerperal endometritis. So this is a type of severe infection. You don't have to go anything beyond that. And many systemic infections could happen if women get pregnant between 10 to 19 years rather than between 20 to 24 years. So this is the primary reason for the government. Okay, so equality between men and women in terms of marriage, they say that when they're pushing the bill, but this is a more serious concern of the government. Increase the marriageable age of women so that the pregnancy gets delayed. Okay, so that women get pregnant at a time when their body can take it. Is that the only thing? So that is a health angle. Okay, we were in earlier saw a health angle. From a health angle, this looks fine. What about from a socio-economic angle? So what would be the scenario of women after 21 years? So at least they would have a degree in their hand. So even after the pregnancy, they could go back to a job or they could get a job. What would happen if a woman get pregnant at 17 or 18 years? Mostly it would happen during their education, right? Their education gets stopped. Okay, then they'll go for taking care of the child. So since their education is incomplete, they might not get any good job, right? So their family, the husband may not be willing to send them for a job because their job is very menial. Okay, so that women's opportunity to be part of the labor force, that gets affected. So you have to know something. In India, the female labor force participation rate, it's a very important metric. Labor force participation rate means the number of females who are entering the labor force. You can simply understand like that. People who are willing to enter the labor force, that means they have completed their education and they want to enter the labor force. So the number of female in the labor force is almost 20 to 22%, right? If you take 100 women, only 22 are in the labor force, rest are not working, right? So this early marriage and early pregnancy is one major reason for that, right? So when you increase this age to 21, so the government is increasing the chances of them to get a complete education, at least a degree level education, get a proper job after that, right? See, this pregnancy, marriage, everything can wait between 20 to 30 years. You can all have this, but why do you want to have it at 17 or 18, thus ruining the possibilities of next generation, right? So from an economic angle, that is why this was given. From a health angle, I already explained. That is about the prohibition of child marriage. These are the crucial points. So I'm only mentioning the crucial points. These are only things that you have to remember from a mains answer writing perspective. Okay. Moving to the third thing, that is Surrogacy Regulation Act. Let me tell you what surrogacy is. Surrogacy means sometimes a married couple, they may not be able to bear a child. Okay, it could be an issue with the father or it could be an issue with the mother. Okay, if the issue is with mother, we have developed a technology known as, or a system known as surrogacy. Surrogacy means, I'll show you. There is an A is the father, B is the mother. Okay, male, female. Okay, so this mother cannot bear a child. So they could take the help of a third female. Okay, this is known as the surrogate mother. Okay, she could carry the child. Okay, so what they normally do is, so the male, I mean both their reproductive cells would be fused in a lab. It's also known as artificial insemination. Okay, they would create a zygote out of it. They will implant that in the surrogate mother. Okay, so basically the baby would be carried in the third person, okay, who is not biologically or family wise related to these people. Okay, so this is the surrogate mother. Okay, I hope you understood the idea of surrogacy. So it was primarily evolved as a mechanism for parents who are unable to bear a child to have the child. Okay, that was the system. But since human beings are so ingenious in misusing everything, in India, the surrogacy became a big black market kind of an industry. So what happened is that many of the foreigners who could not bear a child or who did not want to go through the ordeal of pregnancy to have a child, they would fly to India, go to some rural areas. There would be middlemen. Okay, they would identify poor rural women who doesn't have much resources or financial resources. They would select them as surrogate mothers. Okay, they would make them bear the child of that foreigners. Once the child is born, they will give back the child to the foreign parents in exchange for money. Okay, it was known as commercial surrogacy. That means getting a surrogate mother in exchange for money. Okay, initially you have to remember this mechanism was developed not as a commercial practice, but just a family member or a friend who wanted these people to have a kid, they could come and help. That was the idea. But that became commercial. So there was so much of shady practices going on there. These middlemen were often cheating the surrogate mother. They would agree for surrogacy for maybe 2 or 4 lakh with the foreigners, but this poor mother might end up getting 30,000 or 35,000 for carrying somebody's child for 10 months, going through all the pain, right? So the government decided to ban it. Okay, because in India, our cultural norms, our value system do not go well with the idea of commercial surrogacy. So it's basically womb for rent, right? So we don't want motherhood to be available for rent, so we banned that. So it replaced commercial surrogacy with ethical altruistic surrogacy. What is that? Altruism means you're feeling to help someone else. Okay, that is your spirit to help your fellow beings. That is altruism. So if a couple is not having kids because of an issue with the women in that couple, so a friend of them, female friend of them who can carry their child could opt as a surrogate mother and get a child and give it to them. Okay, so that is the altruism somebody can do. Okay, so that is permitted, but commercial surrogacy is not permitted. It prohibits couples who are not of Indian origin from availing surrogacy in India. So I said, no, this bad practice that is ended. It allows only locals with certified medical reasons. So there should be a certified medical reason, or doctors should certify that the woman is incapable of becoming pregnant or carrying the child till it grows into a healthy, full, proper child, right? So if there is a medical certification, only surrogacy can be availed. So that is the third law that we are talking about, the Surrogacy Regulation Act. Okay, I hope till here it's very clear. So these are the three major legislations that have been created in India. All the three have been amended in 2021, so that it is getting updated with the latest technologies in the world that guarantees reproductive autonomy in India. And I hope you have the comparison with the US in your mind. Okay. So what are the impact of these initiatives? They increased institutional deliveries from 79% to almost 89%. Institutional deliveries means giving birth to child in hospitals. Because if you don't give birth to child in hospitals, the risk of it getting aborted automatically, the mother dying, the child dying, all that goes up. Okay, so institutional deliveries has increased. India has achieved greater longevity of mothers. The MMR has reduced from 167 per 1 lakh live birth to 103 per 1 lakh live birth. So these are all improvements that has happened as a result of all these legislations. Okay, so now I wanted to give some more women-centric mission. So this is how I want you to see this when you are going for an answer writing standpoint. See, so I said no, three pillars. There is MTP, prevention of child marriage, surrogacy. These were the three inner pillars, but these three are health related or medical aspects related, or regarding abortion or child marriage age. These are related to, these legislations are related to all these three. But if the women is to have proper reproductive autonomy, don't you think they should be empowered in some other ways? Yes, they should be empowered socially, economically, politically. So just by having these three legislations, the women cannot exercise their reproductive autonomy in a patriarchal country like India. They need more empowerment at the economic, social, and political level. And that is what the government has tried to do through all these measures. One is Ayushman Bharat Jan Arogya Yojana. So it's part of the PMJAY scheme. It provides a health cover of rupees 5 lakh per family for a wide range of facilities relating to obstetrics and gynecology. So this is the branch of medicine that take care of pregnant mother, the medical care for newborn kids. It is the branch of medicine. So 5 lakh per family per annum is given under Prime Minister Jan Arogya Yojana. So they are economically empowered to access all these services. Secondly, Pradhan Mantri Madru Vandana Yojana, they partially compensate for wage loss due to pregnancy. Why is that a problem? Because see, companies are basically not inclined to take women in that marriageable age or pregnant mothers. Okay, pregnant women, they don't give jobs to them because since they are pregnant, after 10 months they'll go on leave. At that time they have to give salary, right? So there is no productivity given to the company, but company has to give salary. So company, pure business mind, they don't want to do that. So what happened is that they don't give jobs only to women in the 22, 26 or that age. I'm not saying all the companies, but there are companies doing it. So Pradhan Mantri Madru Vandana Yojana is a mechanism where the government will compensate for the wage loss. Government will compensate the companies for the wage loss, or not the companies, the mothers for the wage loss. Third is Pradhan Mantri Surakshit Madrutva Abhiyan. It aims to provide free antenatal care to pregnant women every 9th day of the month. What is antenatal care? Antenatal care is early child born, or before the child is getting born, the care for the pregnant women. That is how you have to understand it. It is as financial and health complications. Institutional deliveries under Janani Suraksha Yojana. Lakshya for quality, respectful care in labor rooms during deliveries. Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao campaign to ensure that girls are born and given proper education to grow. And finally, the Mudra Yojana, giving loans without collateral to aspiring women entrepreneurs. So this is a very comprehensive approach, right? So on top, we give social, economic, and political empowerment, and within that we give a legislative support through medical termination of pregnancy, prevention of child marriage, and surrogacy. So a similar diagram can be used in your answer. Okay, so there is a comprehensive scheme or support of empowerment given to women of India to avail or exercise reproductive autonomy in this country. Okay, so that is very progressive, extremely progressive, even compared to United States of America, which is known as the most developed, the most richest country in the world. Okay, so that is a matter of pride for all Indians. Okay, so India, through its forward steps like extending ceiling of permissible abortions, talking about menstrual hygiene openly, outlawing triple talaq, is showing the path to a progressive society. So if you get a question on this angle, this is one way of concluding that answer. There is another thing that I want to give you from an answer writing standpoint. So when you have questions like this, when you have topics like this, always try to think of the big picture. I said, no, this reproductive autonomy shouldn't be thought only as a mother health, child health problem. It should be connected to the larger economic progress, right? How do we connect it to the larger economic progress? So without reproductive autonomy, children would be unhealthy. I showed that vicious cycle, no? Children could go to vicious cycle of poverty, right? And with reproductive, or see, this is without reproductive autonomy. So if there is reproductive autonomy, there would be healthy children, they would be getting proper education, they would be getting proper parental care. So young productive individuals could be born who could take the economy to the next level. Understand? So that is the kind of big picture connection you have to keep in mind when you see these kind of questions. Okay, so now let us go to the poll. So you could all take the poll now. With reference to abortion laws in India, consider the following statements. Okay, so I hope you have understood the topic very clearly. A majority have answered correctly, so that is good. So let us just discuss it. Yeah, so some of them have scored the correct. Sonia, Kirti, Abhijit, Lakshya, Anurag. Congrats to all those who got the correct answer. So let us discuss it. The Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act allows the abortions up to 24 gestational weeks on grounds of risk to a mother's life. We saw that, no, that was the major change from 20 to 24 in special cases. Statement 1 is correct. Second, Shantilal committee was set up to look into the issue of induced abortions. I said no in 1964. I asked you guys to make a note of it. So C is the correct answer. Okay, moving forward. Nothing much to be discussed here. On women's abortion rights, West is taking a backward step. However, India is showing the forward way towards a progressive society. Comment. Okay, so this is exactly what we are discussing about. I'll just try to structure it quickly for you. So introduction could be about, you could say that the Roe versus Wade judgment was overturned in the Dobbs case, whereas in India, through the pillars, 3 pillars of MTP, the prevention of child marriage and commercial ban on surrogacy, India is showing a progressive way in matters of reproductive autonomy. That could be your intro kind of a thing. In the body, you could go into detail of it, right? So what the West is doing wrong, okay, issues at the West, Roe versus Wade or landmark, Dobbs case, what is happening. So now abortion is becoming almost illegal there. What is India doing? The 3 pillar thing, MTP, MTP, MTP 2021, Prevention of Child Marriage Act, and ban on surrogacy regulation. So that is one major thing India doing. In addition to it, India is also giving economic, social, and political empowerment. That also could be briefly mentioned as part of your answer. You could mention all those government schemes, or maybe you could also draw a diagram showing how economically, socially, politically government is supporting these women to exercise reproductive autonomy. Okay, and in conclusion, you could connect it with the bigger picture. I said no, by guaranteeing this reproductive autonomy to our mothers, India is creating a condition for healthy, productive individuals to be born and take the economy to the next level of progress, or something of that sort. That could be your conclusion in such an answer. So details, I hope you know. The content part you can easily fill in here. Okay, so I hope the structure is very clear to you. Moving forward, so we move to the next topic. So I hope everything is very clear so far. So the second is an economist's take on freebies. Okay, so I'll give you the context and I'll go to the details of it. So recently elected Punjab state government has announced the provision of 300 units of free electricity for every household, which brings to the limelight the question of freebies given by governments. Okay, so now we have to know what are these freebies. Okay, so freebies means any goods or services which are given free by the government. Okay, free of charge. We don't have to pay anything, but we get it for free. Okay, so you know, in Delhi, Aam Aadmi Party is giving units of electricity for free. There is health, education for free. But the freebie culture, it's predominantly started with Tamil Nadu politics. Okay, with DMK, AIADMK, both announcing so much free gifts for the people, even during elections. That is before they become part of the government. During election rallies or during in the election manifestos, they would declare these freebies. What are the things they declare? So they would be declaring free TVs. Okay, so if it is Jayalalitha, they would be Amma TVs, they call it like that. So there are free bicycles. I think it was given in UP a few years back. Then there are free food grains given to the people, free smartphones. Okay, free smartphones, free laptops. Okay, all of these are given as freebies. Free electricity connection, free 3-phase electric supply for agricultural households. So all of these things have been given free by different governments in the past. Okay, so the question is, freebies in general, or in a majority of the cases, freebies are taken as a negative word. Okay, so in this context, today we will be looking at freebies in a comprehensive manner. We would be looking at the negative angle of freebies. What are the damages that freebies can do to the economy and to the state? But is there any positive angle also to that? We'll be looking into that also. So mostly this question of freebies, it results from competitive populism. What is this competitive populism? So both the parties or different parties, both the ruling and opposition, they want to give goods to the people and lure the common man to vote for them. Okay, so here is the scenario. How does this freebies work? Okay, so you take a scenario. uh, Take any state. I am not naming a particular state, but just imagine your own state, or just imagine any state. uh, Suppose the government is not doing well. Okay, government is not doing well and the government is going to face elections. Okay, so now the opposition is always campaigning that the current government is not good. They haven't done anything, they haven't built roads, they haven't improved the electricity thing, they haven't done any infrastructure projects, nor health or educational schemes or anything. So now the existing government is fearful, okay, whether they will sorry, whether they will win the elections. Okay, in that scenario they would come up with announcing something. So for next election, if you uh, win us, or if you give us victory, then we will be giving you free smartphones. Okay, free smartphones to all the family who have kids in the school. Okay, so imagine if it is the corona situation, it's a happy scenario, right? Everyone needs smartphones to attend the Byju's classes or the government classes, all of that you need smartphones, right? So what these poor people would think that, see, they think most of these politicians are corrupt. Okay, once they are in power, they're not going to do anything for these poor people. That is the mindset, unfortunately, that most of the Indians, especially the poorer sections of the society, have. Okay, so though they think if they are promising these freebies, at least we'll get that. Understand? So if they are promising smartphones, these people will at least give that. But if you promise 1 lakh job, highways, metros, free hospitals, you might not even get it. But smartphones, at least you will get it. Okay, let us take it and vote for them. Understand? See, that is the kind of twisted logic that goes in the mind of people, and that is very unfortunate that this works like that. But unfortunately, that is the scenario. So we have to see why freebies in politics on a much detailed scenario. So I was giving the just basic logic of freebies. Now we will understand in thorough why freebies happen in politics. Okay, first of all, it helps political parties to manipulate public opinion. So I said, no, if there is a anti-incumbency means bad feelings against the ruling government. Okay, there is an existing government, and if the people are having animosity, they don't want this government anymore, they will bring down them in the next election. That is a feeling of anti-incumbency. Incumbent means who is in power now. Okay, anti-incumbency means feelings against the government in power. Okay, so by announcing freebies, that opinion of the people, the anti-incumbency feeling, can be modified. Okay, okay, so that is the thing. This anti-incumbency feeling can be modified by announcing freebies. I said no, so they haven't done anything for the last 5 years, full of corruption, but finally they would announce smartphones or laptop for all female child. Okay, so they might think, okay, at least we'll get the laptop, let us take it, we are not going to get anything more, at least we'll take the laptop. So that is one way freebies work. Secondly, these freebies are easy to deliver, unlike good governance. So what is good governance? Good governance means it is governance in general, means it is solving the problems of the society by the government. Okay, be it the social economic problems, all the problems of the society has to be solved by the government, and if it is done in a transparent and accountable manner, we call it as good governance. That is a simple understanding of good governance you can have. It's not very easy to achieve it. Okay, so do you think, or you tell me, which is easy, building a national highway, or building a metro system, or building a, what you call, an industrial park to give employment to 10,000 people, or giving smartphones to kids? Which is easy for a government? For giving smartphones, they just need to get a procurement, right, from a company, maybe from Samsung or Xiaomi, or they, you just enter into an agreement with a private company, you give the money, you will get it. Okay, but what about these industrial parks, right? So there has to be so much things that should happen which require a good governance, a corrupt free governance. The minister should be good, corrupt free. The bureaucrat should be good, they should be efficient, they should be able to take decisions and bring about this. Okay, so that is difficult. So the freebies often are easy to deliver. Okay, so oftentimes political parties are inclined towards the freebies. Third is makes up for bureaucratic inefficiencies. I said no, the same, a very similar idea. See, See, politicians, you have to know something about politicians. They want to be in power. That is their only concern. They are here for the game of power. They want to stay in power. Along with power, they would also be interested in money, no problem. I'm not saying 100%, but a good percentage of politicians. They are here for the power. Okay. So, what will they do? They will do anything that gives them power. Okay. So, see, when politician says that I will give you highway through your cities or through your areas, when I then they say I'll bring textile parks to give employment to women or IT parks to give employment to youth, they actually mean it, right? Because they think giving this will win them votes. End of the day, they need only votes. They don't want your support in any other way. They need only votes. But to get the votes, they might think that IT parks, textile parks, industrial parks, highways, metros, these are all important. But they will announce all this, but the bureaucratic inefficiencies would prevent them from achieving it in 3 or 5 years. Okay, by the end of fifth year, they will have to face elections. So none of these projects are complete. What will they do now? Okay, so they announce so much, everything would have been started also, but nothing is complete. There is nothing on the progress report of the government. They will go and announce freebies. People might or might not vote. Okay, it is better than nothing, right? So that is another thing. So reduces anti-incumbency. This we already discussed. Governments can conceal poor governance outcome by offering freebies. Historical baggage. So in a political culture dominated by freebies, the parties which are not offering them, they could face a consequence, right? So this is a classic situation that is happening in Tamil Nadu politics. So it has been running, this freebie culture has been running for quite some time. So if one party, be it the ruling or be it the opposition, they don't announce the freebie, then naturally in the mind of people, they are not even doing governance. Now they are not also giving anything to free. The other party would be offering so many things. So naturally in the comparison, the party which is not announcing freebie would face a disadvantage, right? So these are the reasons why freebies exist in politics. Okay, so I hope it's very clear to you. Now we have to look at the idea of freebies in much more thoroughly. Okay, what are the arguments that are against the freebies? What are the arguments in support of the freebies? Then we'll go to the topic of the thing, that is the economist argument for freebies. Because if you have to understand that economist argument, you have to get the idea on freebies in a much comprehensive manner. So let us see the arguments that are against freebies. First of all, it weakens democracy. How does freebies weaken democracy? Votes sought on freebies offered rather than government performance, right? So I said no, freebies can manipulate public opinion. Okay, so when there are so many freebies being announced by the party before the election, the people wouldn't judge parties based on their performance. They would forget about it. Okay, so this government has been running for last 5 years. The public memory is very short, right? So you know this from the daily TV news debates. If you see it, yesterday it was something else, today they don't even think about it, today it is a new issue. So public memory is very short. So the good things or the bad things the government did in the last 5 years would not be there in the public memory. So they would try to influence their opinion through freebies, and this culture is not good, right? So actually the election should be decided based on the government performance. The public should be responsible enough to vote for a government that is doing good or that is delivering good governance. So in that way it weakens democracy. Fiscal stress, unproductive expenses. So there could be, so what is the point of giving free TVs to everyone? Okay, so if it is giving free TVs to only the poor, it can be understood. But what is the point of giving free TVs to everyone? So there are also situations when you give this free TVs, no, and if people don't want, they would sell it, right? They would just be selling it. They would bring down the price of TV. That is all what will happen, and it would result in unnecessary fiscal stress for the state government. Okay, so that is a huge argument which is given against the freebie. So often states which are taking huge debt, okay, so this government like the Delhi government has been criticized a lot by Finance Commission, the Tamil Nadu government, Kerala state government, all these governments are criticized because they take too much, or they give too much freebies. Okay, Third is the concept of opportunity cost. Okay, so this requires some explanation. I hope you have already covered, but I'll tell you what opportunity cost is. Okay, so government, just imagine government's budget is only 100 crores. Okay, this is just a hypothetical. Okay, I'm not saying the one state government only have 100 crore budget, it is much more than that, but it is for ease of understanding. So this 100 crores, this is the total, only 100 crores government has. It has to be given for infra development, health, education, salary of government staff, right? All the maintenance of all the utilities. We have the electricity lines, we have the roads, we have the hospital, all has to be maintained, right? So yeah, and some of the money should be given for government schemes also, right? So 100 crores has to be given like this. Okay, you don't have any more money with the state government. So now comes the question of freebies. So what are freebies? Just imagine free TV or smartphone. Okay, we'll consider only smartphone for now for ease of understanding. So now the government or the parties before elections have announced free smartphones to all female children. Okay, all girl children under 18 years of age. Just imagine that is the announcement by the parties. That party came into power. They are announcing their first budget. Out of 100 crores, they have to give money to all of them. Okay, so when you give money for smartphones, what will happen to all these things? Will the funding for that thing will be affected? Yes, it will be affected because the total money is limited. So when you give so much of money, maybe 10 crore for smartphones, only 90 crore would be there for other more essential things, infrastructure, health, education, etc., right? So this is the opportunity cost. So that is the, when you spend money on one option, you cannot do the other option, right? You cannot do both because you have a resource scarcity, right? When you have money, when you have only 100 crores, you cannot spend 10 crore on infrastructure and 10 crore on smartphone. Okay, so if you spend 10 crore on smartphone, your spending on infrastructure will come down. Okay, that is the opportunity cost. That is the opportunity forgone when you choose one option instead of another. Okay, so it affects spending for much needed infrastructure expansion, health, employment, skill development, etc. I hope that is very clear. Moral hazard, that is also a very important idea. So I'll explain it with an example, especially with respect to bank loans. Okay, so there are frequent loan waivers, right, announced in India. That is also a kind of a freebie. Okay, so when you announce these loan waivers, what happens is that, uh, especially for farmers, this loan waivers happens for farmers and student loans. These are the two segments where mostly loan waivers happen. When these loan waivers are announced, when they are announced once, these people expect it always. Okay, so suppose I'll tell you an actual thing. In 2008, in the finance ministry budget at that time, there was a loan waiver of 60,000 crore. Okay, 60,000 crores of loans was just waived. Okay, farmers needn't payback. So that was in 2008. It was also during the 2008 crisis. So that was very genuine. That was a good thing that was done at that time. So now in 2014 also, the farmers would be taking loans every year, right? They would think that loan waiver would come in 2013, 14, 15. Every year they would expect a loan waiver. And if they're not given a loan waiver, they would be dissatisfied with the government for that. Right. So frequent loan waivers would create a mindset that loans need not be paid in time. That is the moral hazard. You are actually training people to have a bad behavior. Okay, you are incentivizing bad behavior. That is the moral hazard created by freebies. I hope it's very clear. You can keep remembering that example. That is better to remember. Continuing the argument against freebie, wastage of resources. So I said no, this three-phase electric supply was given to agriculture households. Free three-phase electric supply to all farmers who have land above a particular limit. So what happened? I think it was given in Tamil Nadu or some of the South Indian states. So what happens is that the farmers will indiscriminately pump water. Okay, so see, the current is free, then why would you bother about the pumping? Because you don't have to worry about the current charge. So you will keep on pumping water. So what will happen? Your groundwater level will go down. Understand? So because of this free electric connection, the people are not worried about their water consumption. right? If the current also has a money, if the water also has a price attached to it, people will use it discriminately. People will make efficient use of water. Here there is wastage of water, so there are valuable resources like water, electricity, etc. going waste. Okay, that is another issue. It discourages honest taxpayers. So that's a very important thing. See, we often see this debate happening. Most of these freebies are directed at poorer sections of the society. It is not directed towards middle class, lower or upper or sections above it. Okay. So what happen is that when the governments unnecessarily, okay, give all these freebies, it affects the fiscal capacity of the government. So I said, no, there is an opportunity cost affected with it. So since the government spend money on freebie, they don't have money to spend on road maintenance. There would be all potholes on the roads. There won't be round the clock electricity supply. There would be load shedding all the time. So who gets affected? The middle class also gets affected. Who are these middle class? They are the tax paying citizens. Okay. So the tax paying citizen do not have any incentive to pay tax in time because they're not getting any services from the state, right? So you would have often heard about people who live abroad, NRIs who come to visit us, right? They would say, "Arey, in US, in Norway, and all, there it makes sense to pay tax because you get all the services. Look at the roads, look at the electricity supply. But here, why are we paying taxes? We are not getting any services." See, that is the discouragement or disincentivizing of taxpayer happens when freebies are given unnecessarily. Finally, it acts like a bribe to influence voters, thus striking at the root of free and fair elections. So, conducting free and fair elections, it is at the very base of a democratic system, right? Free and fair elections is the cornerstone of a democratic system. When you announce these freebies, you can manipulate the public opinion. It is like a bribe. You give me vote, I'll give you smartphone, right? So you cannot give money to buy vote. That is a corrupt electoral practice, right? So that is corruption. That is corruption under Election Commission laws or Representative of People Act laws. It's a corruption, giving money to buy votes. But giving smartphone as a government measure, it is not corruption. It is not a corrupt practice, right? So it acts like a bribe to influence voters, which is bad. Okay, so these are the arguments against freebies. Now we will see some of the arguments for freebies. This is not, I don't think you would have come across this very often, but this is also a very important thing. So at this point, I would bring some nuance to the idea of freebie. Okay, so far we are talking about free TV, free smartphones, free electricity connection, etc. But now we can bring some nuance to the idea of freebie. What about jobs under MGNREGA? Do you think that is a freebie? Okay, some people might think, why are we giving so much money to this MGNREGA people? They're not doing any proper productive job. They will just stand on the road and women keep talking. You get 300 rupees at the end of the day. It is very good. At least we could have gone for you would have heard the middle class people lamenting about this, right? I hope all of us would have personally done that, right? So do you think MGNREGA is a freebie? Okay, hold that thought. What about during the COVID crisis, there were free food kits given to poor sections of the society? Free food, free consumer items, so free groceries like dal, vegetables, etc., so that the family kitchen can survive. Okay, people are affected by COVID, they cannot go out for work, especially the daily wage laborers. So states like Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Andhra, all these states, many states, Delhi, UP, almost all the states, there are free food kits given to the citizens. Do you think that is a freebie? Right? So these are another set of freebies which get some kind of support from the public. Okay, so we are coming to the positive side of freebies. First of all, the first argument in support of freebies like this MGNREGA or giving free food grains under the PDS system, right, the public distribution system, you get rice for 1 rupee, wheat for 2 rupees, you get that. So that could be called as a constitutional obligation of a welfare state. Okay, we know India is supposed to be a welfare state. Welfare state means a state that looks after the socio-economic welfare of its citizens. Okay, so you have to make sure that they are not hungry, they are not malnourished, they have basic health facilities, basic education facilities. Okay, these are the minimum thing that a state should ensure, and also give protection to their life and property. Okay, so when it comes to food, nutrition, health, education, Not all poor people would be able to afford it if it's very expensive, right? So the state can opt to give it as free. Okay, so there are two ways for the state to achieve a welfare state. Either they can increase the employment, they can increase the economic growth in the state or the country, and once everyone gets employment, everyone's economic scenario would improve, and hence they would be automatically able to afford all this. That is the trickle down theory which we have been following long back. But the state could also directly target the poor people. Okay, instead of waiting for trickling down to happen, instead of waiting for growth to lift them out of poverty, the state can target them and give them these essential items, maybe food grains, nutritious food through midday meal scheme. Okay, all those can be done. So that is a constitutional obligation of a welfare state. Where does it say? Under Article 39B, that is the directive principle of state policy, says that the state shall endeavor to what do you call to for resource distribution for achieving common good. State shall also endeavor to prevent inequality, economic inequality, for common good. So if you look at 39B and C, these are the provisions. So under that, freebies can be supported. Okay, but not all freebies, not TVs or smartphones, but food grains, etc. Relief during emergency, we already talked about. During COVID crisis, this free food kits was one of the primary reason for eliminating hunger in India. What about MGNREGA? Okay, I'll come to that. I just put that example out there. See, MGNREGA, we all think that MGNREGA, its primary purpose is to make these people do jobs for the society, right, and create some economic activity, do some productive employment and make the economy grow. That is not the ultimate objective of MGNREGA. Ultimate objective of MGNREGA is to bring some money into the hands of extremely poor rural people, especially when they are facing a adverse agriculture scenario, when their agriculture is going bad, or agriculture has a seasonality to it, right? They don't have job round the year, 365 days. So we are giving them 100 days of job which they can take during their lean season. When there is no agriculture wage coming to them, they can take that money. So 300 rupees into 100 days, or 350 rupees into 100 days, that is 35,000 rupee in a family. If the father and mother goes for work, that becomes 70,000 in that family, right? They can put that in a self-help group, they can take loans using that, they can support their family, they can start some entrepreneurial venture from it. So this is the purpose of MGNREGA. Okay, so don't judge MGNREGA only based on the works they are doing, but based on its poverty alleviation potential. So it cannot be called as a freebie, a wasteful exercise of money, but it is one of the factors that was responsible for rural economic growth in the first phase of UPA, that is 2005 to 2009. And even later that, even during COVID, we have increased the days of jobs under MGNREGA. It serves the exact same purpose of empowering rural economic growth. Okay. It will counteract the glaring inequality in society. So because the poor people are also getting access to nutritious food, health, education, etc., right? Otherwise, if all these are given for money, they won't be able to access it. Then the inequality would increase. Now there is more leveling, right? Then another thing is, even if the governance, I said no, even if the governance is poor, they cannot deliver essential services like health, education. The poor people can get access to these by giving them as free. Okay, so these are the arguments in support of the freebie. So now we are coming to that topic, an economist viewpoint. So far we are looking at freebie in a very comprehensive manner. The reason why I took it so comprehensively is so that if you get an essay question, high chances of this getting as an essay question, you can build their entire story by having a proper understanding. Okay, so this economist viewpoint is a very brief point which will give you some authenticity in your opinion. When you are writing this economist viewpoint in your answer, it gives you more authentic. You sound like an expert, right? Even if we are not an expert, right? That is our idea here. So there are some economic jargons which I'll be explaining here. So what should be given free? Essential and merit goods could be given free or under subsidy. That is the economist saying. So this was based on an article by C. Rangarajan, former RBI governor, very respected, prominent economist. Okay. So he is saying essential and merit goods could be given for free. What are these essential goods? Essential goods means goods that are essential for the survival, like food grains, right? Clothing, basic clothing requirement. We call no food, clothing, shelter. That is the essential goods. So giving food grains under PDS, it is totally not a problem. You cannot dismiss it or you cannot criticize it. It is a freebie, we should ban it. No, giving food grains has shown to be, study after study has shown that giving free food through PDS, through midday meal, has improved the nutritional security in India, has reduced hunger in India, has increased the number of students attending schools, has reduced the dropout of students from school. So much of what you called spin-off advantages has come out of it. So that is very significant. Second thing is merit goods. What are these merit goods? Okay, so normally if you look at goods in the market, who are the people who can access these goods? People who either have an ability to pay for that good. Either you should have the money to pay for it, either you should have the willingness to pay for it. So if you have an ability or willingness to pay for it, you could access anything from the market. That is a market mechanism. Okay, but merit good means a good that can offer benefit to everyone, even to people who do not have the ability or willingness. Okay, best example is health. Okay, especially primary healthcare. It's mostly preventive, like giving vaccinations, taking antibiotics against infectious diseases. So these are basically primary healthcare. So people from the poorer sections of the society, they won't go to the hospitals if they get a small fever or anything, because if they go to the hospital, their one day wage will be lost. They'll just go for work. Okay, what will happen when they go for work with this fever or viral fever? It is an infectious disease, they will spread to other people, right? So what will happen if this free primary healthcare is not given? They will never go. Okay, they don't want to spend money on an issue that is already causing them a wage loss. Okay, so it's a double situation. They won't go to private hospitals. Instead, they will go for job. They will give the disease to everyone. Is it a problem to the entire society? Right? The disease was for a private individual, but the loss is for the public. Right? This is the kind of merit goods. Merit goods means it could confer some benefit to the larger public. It could create this spin-off benefits to the public. Okay, subsidized housing, primary health services, these are all merit goods. So if you give merit goods as free to the society, it would benefit the entire society, not only the individual, the entire society. Free health, free health, free primary education, all of them comes under merit goods. Okay, so remember this essential and merit goods. Okay, second thing is goods and services that can boost economic growth. So here comes MGNREGA. It's not a good, but it's a service that is provided by the government. I already explained how it can boost rural economy. So two persons working under MGNREGA getting 70,000 per month, per year, they will put that in some self-help group. Okay, so if it is in Kerala, it will be Kudumbashree. If it is in Andhra, there is a society for elimination of rural poverty. In every state, there would be a mechanism like this which runs the self-help group. If you remember, under the National Rural Livelihood Mission, we have promoted this self-help groups. So they would give money to them. They will deposit money in the SHG. So SHG would put this in the bank. That is the SHG bank linkage program. So they could take some loans from the banks. They could start some enterprises. Maybe they could start farming, cattle farming. They could maybe make pickles, or if they are artisans, they could make some rural handicrafts, which India is very famous for, and they could sell it on Amazon or Flipkart for all of us to buy, right? Thus bringing them money, right? So these are all possible through this MGNREGA money. So these are services that can boost economic growth. So giving money under MGNREGA is never a freebie. Okay, keep that in mind. Goods and services that can help in poverty reduction, right? We already saw food grains, giving food grains, free education. It can, how does free education leads to poverty reduction? The next generation becomes equipped, right? We are investing in the human development, in the human capital. Education, health and skilling for an individual will improve the personal worth or the productive capacity of the individual. They can take part in the economy, they can bring money for themselves. It would lift them out of poverty, right? For all those things, you can all those goods and services could be given for free, but you should never give goods and services that gives only short-term gains in exchange for long-term costs. Best example would be the TV. right? Short term, people would be incentivized. All those people who do not have TV might vote for them. But what is the long term gain? No long term gain, only long term cost for the state. Unwanted fiscal stress. Okay, don't give those kind of stuff for free. Okay, so I hope you have got a fair understanding of the entire thing. Okay. Moving on, so this is a did you know section. So this is a case study of freebie culture. So very interesting thing in Venezuela. So Venezuela is one of an oil rich country. It's a Latin American country, oil rich country. It has been ruled by the left parties, the communist parties, for a long time. Because of the oil boom till the 1980s, the government resorted to offer everything for free, from food to public transport. Everything is given for free. But once the price boom started to slow down, once the oil prices came down, the country, which imported almost 70% of its food, faced an imminent economic crisis. See, the country only had one wealth, that was oil. Okay, they are getting so much money from the oil, so they thought it was a left government. So you might remember Hugo Chavez. He was the Venezuelan president for a long time, very popular president. And in fact, he has done so many good things, right? The poverty alleviation, people got so many jobs, their health system was much better. All those things were good. Why? Because all of these services were given for free. So everyone got access to best health services, best education support, food, nutrition, infrastructure, everything was given for free. But the problem is the state did not create any wealth. The state did not produce any items for their consumption. So once the oil prices came down, they had to import everything from outside. Once the oil prices came down, their imports become much more expensive, right? The import charges went up. Then they went into a crisis. Now Venezuela is in a huge crisis for last 10-15 years. They are yet to, not 10-15 years, maybe I would say last 10 years, they are yet to recover fully from it. Okay, so this is a very interesting case study of it. Now we'll go to the next poll. So, with reference to freebies and subsidies seen in news, which of the following constitute a freebie or subsidy in India? So, I'll be forming a poll. So, last time I was given you 30 seconds. This time I'll give you 1 minute. Okay, so you can start answering. So, remember, eliminate the wrong option and arrive at the correct answer. Okay. So, guys, so there are a lot of doubts. So, I'll be taking it up towards the end of the session. Don't worry, your doubts will be resolved. So, with reference to freebies and subsidies, uh, which of the following constitute a freebie or subsidy? Let us discuss. First is production linked incentive given for producers. So that means, so this is something I haven't mentioned. So I was just trying to see whether you will interpret it properly. So production linked incentives. So far we are talking about freebies given to poor people like TVs, etc. for poor people. But government also announce freebies for the richer people. That is the business class or the merchant class. So what are the kind of freebies they give? They give tax concessions. They give production linked incentives. For example, if an industrial park is producing so much and exporting so much, they will be giving some concession, getting some concession in tax. Okay, those are not a production linked incentive. The incentive related to it is linked to the production capacity of that plant. Okay, so given for producers, that is also a freebie. Free food grains given to household is a freebie. And free services like health and education, that is also a freebie. So all the above is the answer here. Okay. So we will go to the subjective question. So recently, the government has been heavily resorting to issuance of freebies and subsidies, which cannot be justified on various grounds. Discuss the issues associated with this practice and suggest some measures to address them. Okay, so you, when you are writing an introduction, you could give a contemporary scenario context. The Punjab issue, or most of the state governments are giving freebies and things like that, and which are causing so much fiscal stress, and it is affecting their spending in much needed essential services like health, education. That could be your introduction. In the body, you could go about discussing the issues associated with this. Okay, what are the challenges? We have discussed ample challenges around it, and some suggest some measures to address them. Okay, so measures you can measures to address, you can write that also as part of the body itself. So what are these measures? I said no, this economist viewpoint can be brought there. Don't give freebies to everything, but give freebies only if it is a merit good, essential good, if it alleviate poverty, if it promotes economic growth. That is one major thing. That is the kind of solutions you should give. Then election commission can declare this as a corrupt practice, right? So if they are giving unwanted freebies, it alters the level playing field. Those things can be suggested. And conclusion could be how freebies just to manipulate public opinion strikes at the root of free and fair elections, and hence it has to be properly regulated, or it has to be restricted to all those essential services alone. Like that you can say and conclude. Okay, so that could be the broad way in which you can write and structure this answer. Okay, so maybe you can write this and send this answer to Target IS and get it evaluated. Moving on, the role of caste in economic transformation. So the reason why this topic was taken was primarily to give you a perspective on this caste and economic transformation dynamic. Possibly you might not get a proper GS question from it, but it could be applied in so many questions that could come in the GS, or it could be very usefully utilized in your essays. Okay, so I'll tell you how you can use that also. Okay, so that is one major reason. So uh, before we go into this, I want to ask you a question. So this is a question I always had during my preparation time, and I always had this doubt. So just imagine, after World War, okay, so after the Second World War, almost all the countries of the world, barring America, was completely destroyed, shattered, right? So if you would have seen some of the World War movies like 1917 and all, you can see France, Germany, Britain, Russia, take any name, Austria, take any major powers at that time, everyone was shattered. America was not that much affected, but barring America. Okay, this is the scenario about developed countries in Europe. We don't have to talk about developing or poorer or colonial countries in Africa, India, Latin America, Asia, Latin America. They were always poor at that time. Okay, but so World War ended in 1945. So by around 1960s or 70s, most of these countries came back to their developed status, their rich status. Okay, that is one scenario. Okay, why did this happen? But India, which became free around the same time, okay, 1947, we couldn't achieve a fully developed status even in 2022, right? So these countries which was completely shattered, they came back really quickly, but India couldn't come back even now. The size is one obvious reason. India is a much bigger country. Agree? Is there any other reason? So there could be one more proper theoretical reason for this comeback, which I will tell you, but I need another answer. Okay, one reason why they could have come back, all these shattered developed countries could have bounced back, would be because they had all this technical prowess with them. They had the human power, which know how to become developed once. Okay, so if you know how to become developed or economically grow once, even if you face a sudden attack, like something sudden shattering of the economy through World War, you could again come back because you have the rule book to implement, right? So that is one reason. I agree with that also. But even despite that, why a country like India, right, which has been economically much huge in the ancient times, Why couldn't we come back significantly? To my mind, caste is a major reason. Okay, that is one answer I could conclusively reach to. I'm not saying caste is the only reason for India's economic backwardness. I'm not saying India is not completely backward also. That I think you are getting the nuance here, right? We haven't reached where we should have reached. That is my point. That is my only point. Okay, we should have lifted all these people out of poverty long back, but we haven't done it. Okay, that is my only doubt, and I think caste is a major reason for it. I don't know whether all of you think caste is a major reason for it, but anyway, after this discussion, I think you will have a proper perspective on it. That is the purpose of this discussion. It will alter your perspective, it will shape your perspective, which will help you write wonderful answers for your GS mains and essay. Okay, so from the last 2 decades, India has been plagued by jobless growth coupled with rising poverty, discontent in rural areas. See, if you look at the recent protests, the Agnipath program, agitations against farm laws, agitation for reservation by agriculture caste, all are outcomes of simmering discontent due to jobless economic growth. Okay, I don't know whether all of you have connected all these things together. Okay, so see, all of this have a connection. If you look at the last 10 years in India, there were protests of one form or the other by the predominant agriculture caste. If you look at the Jat agitation, the Patidar agitation, they all wanted to get reservation. Why do you think all of that came together? Okay, we'll come to that. So what about this Agnipath program? So even the state is saying, all the army chiefs are, I mean, the defense chiefs are saying it is good for the country, it's good for the youth. Why are people not willing, agreeing to that? They are vandalizing the public property, they are putting things to fire. Why do you think all this happens? At the root of all this, it is what you call as economic uncertainty. Okay, so these people don't know what their future will be, right? Whether they'll get a proper job, whether they will have a secure economic safety net, right? So that economic uncertainty is fueling most of it. But at the same time, there is a section of society that is very well off. They have got all the benefits that the liberalization, privatization and globalization had to offer to this country, but there is a section of society which haven't received much of that, and that is the discontent that we are seeing on the roads. Okay, so now we have to ask ourselves, why did India fail to create a growth pattern that produces jobs and inclusive development like most of the East Asian countries? So here again, I want to bring some context. If you look at the independence, East Asian countries and China, take China also, most of these countries became independent around the same time India became independent, 1947, 50, 52. We are talking about Korea, Vietnam, all these countries. Okay, Indonesia, Thailand, and China. China, it's not about independence, but Chinese revolution, the Mao Zedong time, all that happened somewhere around that time. If you look at all these East Asian countries, they are known as East Asian tigers. Okay, in the international economic parlance, they are known as East Asian tigers because of the rapid, fast economic growth they showcased from around 1990s to 2010, and it's still going on. Okay, I'm talking about South Korea. South Korea is the best example, and China also very similar case. Why couldn't India achieve that kind of a growth? Okay, that can produce jobs, that can give good jobs to our citizens. So we often remark India's growth as jobless growth. Why is India growing economically but not creating enough jobs for its citizens? Some economists also call it as treadmill growth. I hope all of you know what a treadmill is. We use for running on the morning, no? The treadmill thing, that machine on which we can run. The point is we keep on running, but we don't move from that place. No, that is what. So that is the similar situation of India. We are growing, but there is no jobs. The growth is not getting distributed. Okay. So why is this happening? So one of the answers is caste. Okay, it is a very qualified statement. It is only one of the answers. I am not saying, nor the author who wrote this article is saying caste is the major reason, but one of the reason is caste. It is a structural factor that is preventing economic transformation in India. This is what we want to look in much detail. Okay. So how does caste create this inequality, or how does caste as a structural factor affect this economic transformation. What do we mean by economic transformation? Let me explain that also. By economic transformation, we mean, so see, there is an agriculture sector, there is an industry sector, there is a services sector. Okay. Most of the economies are predominantly in the agriculture sector in the beginning, right? At the early stage of development, most of the citizens of a country would be employed in the agriculture sector. With economic growth, the surplus labor from agriculture would be shifted to industries. Okay, then there will be manufacturing, there would be so many industries, there would be construction. So the surplus labor from agriculture would be shifted to industries, all of them will be getting jobs. Now from industries, once the industries mature in an economy, then comes the time of services sector. Services is like hotels, the hospitality, tourism, transport, communication, banking services. These are all the services we talk about. This comes in only when the industries have been fully grown and matured and developed and all that. This is how the economies grow. This is the theory for growth of economic transformation world over. It is also known as Lewisian transformation, named after the economist who proposed it. It's not at all necessary, just a trivia. Okay, he's a Nobel laureate, Lewis, Arthur Lewis. I think his full name is Arthur Lewis. Okay, so he proposed this. India didn't follow this economic transformation. I hope you have learned already this. In India, the surplus labor from agriculture has not been shifted to industries. Surplus labor is still in the agriculture sector, which we call as disguised unemployment. That means if only 10 people should be working in agriculture, ideally in India 100 people are working there. Okay, that is disguised unemployment. It might appear that these 90 people are employed, but they are not actually employed, right? They are kind of working at a very low wage. That is the idea of disguised unemployment. But in India, the services sector is good. So majority of the population is still in agriculture. Almost 55% of our labor force in agriculture. Only almost 14% is in services. Somewhere around 20-28 is in industries. I don't know whether the percentage is matching up, but these are just the approximate numbers. Actually, this surplus, at least 30% from agriculture should have gone to industry, but that didn't happen in India. The services is okay, decent. Okay, this is the economic transformation we are talking about. This surplus labor should have moved from agriculture to industry, from industry to services. That didn't happen. Okay, why it did not happen? And why was it necessary to happen? Because if it doesn't happen, majority of the people wouldn't be getting jobs. Okay, we'll come to that. How caste impedes economic transformation? Impedes means it's a barrier, how it prevents. Okay, that is the idea of impede. First thing is inequality in land ownership related to productivity failure within the farm sector. Just remember inequality in land ownership. I'll explain what it is. Second is elite bias in higher education and historical neglect of mass education. Just listen these words, I'll explain what these things are. Third is caste-based barriers and networks in entrepreneurship. Okay, I'll be explaining all these three in much more detail. First thing, land ownership and productivity. How is caste affecting land ownership? How is caste affecting productivity of the agriculture sector? And how is that affecting our economic growth? Okay, first of all, colonial legacy. Okay, so all of us have studied about the zamindari system. So what happened was that prior to the zamindari system, prior to British, there were kings, right? The kings had given land to only the upper caste, that is Brahmins, Kshatriyas, and maybe in some places to Vaishyas. But mostly Brahmins and Kshatriyas had control over the land. When the British came in, they wanted to collect taxes from the land, but they didn't want to upset the land allotment system, because they did not want a revolt from the local public. So they maintained that allocation of land, but they created the zamindari system on top of it. What is that? Absentee landlord. So there would be a zamindar in control of the land, but there would be farmers who do not have any land working on that. Okay, so during the colonial period also, there was no land ownership to a majority, only to the upper caste had ownership to land. So this unequal distribution remained at that time. Okay, and this was caste dependent. Okay, the role of caste coming first. Secondly, Post independence, we brought in land reforms. The independent India was very aggressive in promoting land reforms, and we succeeded to some extent. We cannot say that post independent land reforms was largely successful. We gave land to some of the castes, some of the lower castes, which we call as the intermediate caste. But in that process also, we excluded most of the Dalits and other lower castes. Okay, so even the post-independent land reforms did not give land to Dalits or other lower castes in the caste system. What was the situation of Green Revolution? They also failed to bring land equality because it was mostly achieved through technological intervention, that is high yielding varieties of seeds, irrigation, fertilizers, pesticides. And this Green Revolution was mostly focused on people who already have big land, because then only you can use machinery, you can use farm tractors for plowing, threshers for threshing the things. So it was already focused on big landowners. Okay, so people already had big land, benefited largely from Green Revolution. So what you can see is this inequality in land distribution is remaining unaffected till almost 1970s, 1980s. This is the period we are talking about. Okay, up till 1980, that caste-based land inequality remains. Post LPG reforms, the significance of land has reduced. Land as a means of production has lost in value. Most of this land became real estate, right? And this landed people could not survive in the modern era because traditionally they didn't focus so much on education. Because once you have so much on land, you either became farmers, your children became farmers, because you had enough wealth coming from the land. So you neglected education. Now with the LPG, land becoming a lesser importance, or agriculture losing in value, you couldn't migrate to the modern sectors like industries or IT or anything, because you neglected education. And secondly, because of the barriers created by upper caste, especially the Vaishyas. So all the trade, see, this agriculture people, where could they go from agriculture? They are predominantly practicing agriculture. Now what is the sector? They cannot suddenly become software engineers, right? So they would be taking up some industry, some trade related to agriculture. They would be setting up some shops or things like that. But the Vaishya caste did not allow that, because they have huge networks. Okay, so this money lending, everything happened between them. So the other lower castes were not unable to get into that network. We'll come to that. Okay, so this land ownership remain unequal all before independence, after independence, and even after LPG, all because of the prevailing caste system. Okay, so what is the consequence of it? People, there is a large section of Indian society, especially the most poorer sections of the society. If you look at Dalits, they are the most disadvantaged section in the Indian society. They never got access to any land. Okay, so what is the purpose of land? See, these Dalits are the people who till the land. They are the farmers all across the country. They are the one who is farming the land, but they, even now, they don't have access to land. Okay, so first of all, they are tilling on a, they are acting as a tenant, they are working for someone else. They get a wage which is very minimal. In some states you get wage, a daily wage like 150 or 200 or something. In some states like Kerala, the wage is somewhere around 800, 900. But most of the North Indian, Central Indian states is like 100, 200. That is the range. You can't do anything with that amount of money, right? So that is the consequence of this inequality in land ownership because of the caste. Okay, so that is the first barrier from the caste, and that prevented in economic transformation of these people in the lower caste. Second is neglect of mass education. So this is a government policy. British time, they focused only on educating a small group of elites, because what they wanted glorified clerks for running this country. They didn't want the IAS officers, or they didn't want the top level bureaucracy that they took from themselves, but they want people who can be clerks or gumastas and all that. So they created an education system for the elites of this country only. Okay, so this inequality in access to education was very entrenched in the system at the time of independence. Okay, so even the post-independence time also, what was the kind of education we predominantly focused? We wanted to create IITs, IIMs, AIMS. So if we look at all of this, all these are higher educations, right? So I'm not saying we totally, we focused only on this. We focus predominantly on this, and we relatively neglect primary education. Okay, primary education or mass education, primary, secondary education, which has to be given to the larger masses. That came into focus much later. Okay. So this is the situation. So when this mass education was not focused by the government immediately after independence, that resulted into inequality in other economic domains. Okay. So now let me bring the comparison between China. Okay, China and the other East Asian countries. That is what we are talking about. No. So in opposition to India's policy with respect to land or this education, China and these East Asian countries followed a different model. Okay. This was their model. First thing is massive land reforms, giving land ownership to almost everyone. Okay. Proper land distribution to almost every citizens. Second thing is massive investment in primary education, secondary education, primary health, secondary health. Okay. And massive support of skilling the individuals. All these three can be taken as human capital or building human capital or building human development. This is what these countries focused on. So what happens? So when you focus on this mass education, giving them massive health services, skilling them, so these people could be employed in the industrial sector. So this initial transition from agriculture to industry happened on a huge scale in China and other Southeast Asian countries. Okay, so there were so many of rural industries coming up. Why would rural industries come up? Because people in agriculture, people who are traditionally in agriculture, now got education. Now they thought, okay, agriculture is not that remunerative. Let us do some business, or let us go into some industries. Let us create some pipes, or let us learn welding and all those things. And in order to do all these basic skills, you need some education also, no? So this mass education helped in the upskilling of these people. So it resulted in a huge boom of industries in the rural areas. Okay. And that is how these East Asian countries, including China, become a manufacturing hub for the world. Okay. I don't know whether you are believing what all this I am saying. You might think I am bluffing, right? So I'll tell you, I'll prove this in another way. So when China and East Asian countries became a manufacturing hub, what was India known for? You tell me, what was India known abroad or internationally in the 90s and 2000s and even now? What is India known for? Which is the most famous product that we export from India? Not yoga anyway. It is the IT sector, right? It is the IT services. Indian IT engineers are known all over the world. They are famous for their IT skills, right? Why do you think that happened? So this is a tertiary sector. This is a higher education, right? People have to complete engineering to become an IT engineer. But to do basic welding, to run basic industries, you just need primary, secondary education and some skilling. So this is what I said, right? India focused on higher education. That resulted in IT service. I am not saying that is bad. But China and East Asian countries focused on mass education. So they could create a massive industrial base which give employment to all the surplus labor from the agriculture. Okay, so what happens in agriculture? Also wage levels or remuneration from agriculture remain high. Industry, see, it's something like this. Let me show you. Almost 30% of the population would still be in agriculture in China, but another 60% or 50% would be in the industrial sector receiving good wages, and last 20% would be in services receiving exemplary wages. So that proper transformation of economy happened in China and Southeast Asian countries. I hope you are getting the point, right? But it did not happen in India. Okay, so this was the neglect of mass education we are talking about. Moving on, barrier to entrepreneurship, caste created barriers affected building social networks. So I said, no, this Vaishya class, so they are the trading class, they are the money lending class. The Chettiars in South India, they are known for their money lending activities. They are even now in Singapore and all, they are the masters of money lending. They control most of the financial institutions in Singapore even. So that are the castes we are talking about. So they maintained a closed network. They did not allow people from other castes to come into this sector and work in entrepreneurship. So entrepreneurship was predominantly limited by the Vaishyas. Okay, so the other castes couldn't access it, or lower castes couldn't access it. So again, caste playing a spoil sport here. Right, they resisted entry of people. So even those who had economic surplus in farm sectors could not move to non-farm modern sectors. They couldn't move to industries. So relative success of economic transformation, if you look in South India, this economic transformation has been much more successful. That is because of a Vaishya vacuum. So there is an absence of traditional merchant caste in South India. Because of that, people from the agricultural caste could move into the trading and industries and all in South India, but it did not happen in the north and other parts of the country. Okay, so this is the role of caste, how caste prevented proper economic transformation. So again, I am qualifying it. I am not saying, or I am not arguing that caste is the sole reason, but caste has played a role as a structural factor in Indian society to prevent or to impede economic transformation. So that information you have to keep in mind. Realizing this, the government has always taken many steps. Okay, so if at all a question comes, this is the next part, the solution part of it. We have prohibited, discriminated under Article 15 on the basis of race, caste, sex, etc. Article 16 gives equality of opportunity in matters of public employment, regardless of their caste. Compulsory basic education under Article 21A to everyone. Land reforms, we are doing it. We are still doing land leasing, land titling reforms are being done, but still the Dalits are still landless, we could say. Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana for skill training of rural youths, PM Mudra Yojana for funding MSMEs, especially women entrepreneurs, Stand Up India for backward caste and women entrepreneurs. So these are all initiatives we are taken to overcome this power of caste on the economic scenario. Okay, so way forward, what can be done? We have to rationalize the reservation policy. Okay, we have to focus on building human capital. What do you mean by rationalizing reservation policy? It means, so currently the reservation system, it is mostly caste based, right? People from socially and educationally backward castes get reservation. So we have brought in the idea of a creamy layer, right? So people who are well off in OBCs, and this creamy layer, the Supreme Court has extended creamy layer to SC and ST, but it is still disputed. Let us not take that. But at least this creamy layer in OBCs has to be properly implemented, because otherwise what happens is that the reservation benefit is already going to people who have already received reservation benefits in the past. So people within the OBCs, the even more poorer section within OBC do not get reservation, right? So that rationalization of reservation policy has to be done. We have to focus on building human capital, health, education, skilling. You have to know all these government schemes on that regard. Grassroots development through self-help group. So that is very important. So self-help group means, let me just explain. So people can help themselves come out of poverty through their mutual networks and mutual solidarities. That is what self-help groups are doing. Kudumbashree model of Kerala for poverty alleviation is the exemplary example for that. Outcome oriented government schemes, all the government schemes, there should be focus on outcomes, not on the budget. You shouldn't say I am spending 100 crores on MGNREGA. You should see whether this money has reached the final beneficiary. So that outcome orientation has to be there. So these are all ways in which this predominance of caste, or the caste as a barrier to economic progress, can be curtailed, can be minimized. Okay, the elimination of caste from the public life, it is not a possibility in near future, but we have to minimize the barriers created by caste. Okay, so moving on, I hope things are very clear to you. We are moving to the next poll. We'll give you 1 minute. So you can do the poll. Which of the following factors can help in inclusive growth in India? It's a relatively easy question. Which of the following factors can help in inclusive growth? Successful implementation of land reforms, focus on human capital formation, industrialization in rural areas. Okay, so that is wonderful. 90% has made the correct answer. 90% of the students have done correct answer. So Lakshya, Anurag, Garima. So these are all people who have done all the three questions right. Saurav, B. Krishna, Abhishek Kumar, Urmila. Congrats to all of you. So there are so many numbers. Congrats to all of you. Moving on. So I hope there is not much scope for explanation here. So successful implementation of land reforms, definitely this barrier of caste can be removed. Human capital formation, that is another way for economic growth. Industrialization in rural areas, we discussed thoroughly about it. So the answer is all the above. Moving on to the subjective question, caste is not just a residual variable of the social system, but it is an active agent which stifles economic transformation. Comment. So I'll just explain it. Residual variable means caste is not just a remnant of the past. So if you talk about caste, okay, some people might say, oh, there is no caste in present world. We are all modern. Sometimes it will be there in with our name. Sometimes we will marry within caste, but that is all. Beyond that, caste does not have any role in modern life. That's what a majority of people think, but that is not true even now, at least for the lower caste people. Okay, it is an active agent which stifles economic transformation. It is still caste still has power to create barriers among lower caste with respect to economic transformation. That is what you have to comment here. So introduction can be about how caste still plays a predominant role, especially with respect to lower caste. You could say that with respect to access to land, access to health, education, all these things you could say. And in the body you could say mm, uh, you could say caste is not just a residual variable. You could say it is not related to marriage or your names or relationships, but it is much beyond that. How it stifles economic transformation. Okay, so access to land, land ownership, how it is caste dependent, you could say. How access to health and education, etc., all these services were not accessible to lower caste because the government policy did not focus on mass education, mass health in the initial times. Okay, I'm not saying now we are doing it. In the initial times, how this networks among entrepreneurs, that is very important, no? So entrepreneurs work through networks. They need channels for getting credit, they need channels for marketing their goods, for selling their goods. So if all these networks are not accessible to someone, you cannot become an entrepreneur, at least a successful one. But when all of these are caste dependent in rural India or some parts of urban India, other castes cannot make a headway in the entrepreneurial scene. So these are the things, these are the ways in which caste stifles economic transformation. So when you mention this problem, even though it is a 10-mark question, you could just give one or two sentences for the solution aspect of it also, how it can be overcome through various government schemes and all that. And you can conclude by saying it's imperative how we have to overcome caste as a barrier of economic transformation. So the government policies, public awareness, support through affirmative action, all has to work in tandem to prevent the damages created by caste. So that is a way in which you have to conclude, because if you don't lift millions of our lower caste or Dalits out of poverty, the possibility of India becoming a world power or a $1 trillion economy or a 5 trillion economy, it cannot happen, right? Because currently those are the people suffering. Rest of all the society has come up. It is a lower caste. If you look at it, it is a lower caste who are economically also deprived. So that is showing this clear class and economic correlation is being shown there. Okay, so that has to change. Moving on to the second last topic, strains on India-Russia defense cooperation. So this is a very contextual topic. It is related to the Russia-Ukraine conflict, and it has given rise to apprehensions on Russia's ability to adhere to the timely delivery of spares and hardware in India. So military spares and hardware. So you have to know that Russia is the biggest arms supplier to India. More than earlier, it was almost 66% of India's arms imports came from Russia. Now, even though it has reduced in the recent past. So, with the Ukraine conflict prolonging, we are worried. Okay, so let us see the status quo situation. Okay. When the Russia-Ukraine conflict started, Indian armed forces had stocks of spares and supplies for 8 to 10 months. Okay. But with the war prolonging, okay, nobody expected this to become a full-blown war and that too to prolong for so long. Yeah, at least we didn't expect. So now it is becoming a concern whether Russia will be able to honor their military supplies. So Russia's ability to timely delivery of space. The army chief has said that armed forces are exploring alternate options. So we are trying to get alternate supply from friendly foreign countries. Okay, if Russia is not able to deliver, we should get it from some other friendly foreign countries. Army chief also said it is an opportunity for private defense manufacturers in India to step up, okay, to focus on the make in India in the defense sector to lift India out of this present problem. Okay, so these are the things that we will be looking. A very narrow topic, okay, but still it could be a possible question. Okay. So let us see the status of India-Russia Defense Cooperation. If you look at India-Russia in defense, Russia has been our all-weather partner. All throughout our testing times, Russia has stood with us, even in the USSR times and after that. So that is something you have to keep in mind. Between 2000 and 2020, if you look, Russia accounted for 66% of India's arms imports. Okay, so out of every 100 thing, almost 66 things came from Russia. That is a thing you have to keep in mind. Even though Russia's share in arm imports was down to about 50%, but it still remained the largest importer. So the Russia's share in India's arm imports are coming down, but even now Russia is the biggest player. So the Russia-Ukraine or prolonging of the Russia-Ukraine conflict is a concern from a defense standpoint. Our defense security, our defense preparedness, everything can get affected. Okay, so now let us see what are the major things we are importing from Russia. That is something we have to see. Now, why are we so worried about this conflict? Submarines. Okay, it's very crucial for the modern naval warfare. The most of the 90% of the India's kilo class submarines, the kilo class comes from Russia, and they constitute 90% of India's submarines. Frigates and guided missile destroyers, Russian Kherson class, Russian Talwar class. You don't have to remember all these names. It's just for reference, okay, just for your understanding. Aircraft carrier, India's one and only one aircraft carrier, INS Vikramaditya, is a Soviet-made Kiev class vessel. Okay, it is a Soviet vessel which we refurbished, we renovated and made as INS Vikramaditya. The missile program, the BrahMos missile, BrahMos means Brahmaputra Moscow. That is the Indo-Russian collaboration missile. Fighter aircraft, Sukhois and MiGs. Okay, almost majority of India's fighter aircrafts comes from Russia. Sukhoi is it's one of the what do you call? It's a very mighty fighter aircraft. MiG, the older ones are, most of them are decommissioned, but now we are procuring latest, the MiG-29. That is the latest in series. Then all the arms and ammunitions that also come from Russia. So you have to know that how deeply connected is the Indo-Russia Defense Cooperation. That is why I mentioned all this. So now we have to see what are the existing challenges in India Russia Defense Cooperation. First thing is ongoing war with Ukraine. That is the biggest challenge. Okay. See, there was a plan. So India is purchasing this AK-203 rifle. So that is the most modern of the AK series of rifles. You know about Kalashnikov class of rifles, right? Kalashnikov. So it was made by a Russian person, Mikhail Kalashnikov. It is the famous AK-47 comes under the Kalashnikov class of rifles. So AK-203 is the latest and under that series. So the Russia has agreed to supply us AK-203 plan, but also technology transfer. Okay, they will give us the technology to manufacture it at India, at Amethi in Uttar Pradesh. Okay, almost 6 lakh rifles could be produced there if that plant is set up. But because of this prolonged Russia-Ukraine conflict, the operationalization of plan has not yet happened. Okay, so that is a big challenge. American sanctions under CATSA. Okay, so that is about. So this is about America's advisories through Sanctions Act. So that is CATSA. CATSA is about see, whenever America has to raise sanctions against any countries. It predominantly makes it about three countries. It is Iran, North Korea, and Russia. So this CATSA Act has been to it has created sanctions against these countries. So if anyone does trade with these three countries, America will impose these sanctions to that country also. For example, if India does significant trade with Russia, sometimes American sanctions could come against India. That is the CATSA Act. Thirdly, decline in Russian imports. I said no, so earlier it was 66%. We have reduced it to 50%. Partly it is because of our dream to become self-reliant in defense manufacturing. Because defense import, defense purchases takes up a huge chunk of our money. So we wanted to be self-reliant at the same time create jobs in India. And moreover, it is a concern of security also. See, when we buy things from outside, these kind of situations can happen. So when Russia is in a war with Ukraine, Russia will primarily consider that war only. Russia won't mind about the trade with India. Okay, because Russia war with Ukraine, Russia has to win at all costs. But the trade with India is just an economic thing. Okay, it is not a strategic thing. So when you are buying things from others, that autonomy, we don't have that security or autonomy or control over that good. So that is also another reason why we are promoting Make in India on a huge level in defense manufacturing. Okay, so that is why decline in Russian imports are happening. Then there is also diversification of Indian imports. So like I said, we are declining our imports from Russia. At the same time, we are trying to import from other countries also. Partly it is because of the China and Pakistan angle, because Russia exports arms in huge quantities to China and Pakistan also. So the problem is, when the same thing is supplied to all the three players, we don't have a strategic advantage. We don't have any extra advantage on our side, because everyone is having the same thing. And China, obviously, since they have more money, they would have bought something more advanced from Russia also. So that is why we are diversifying our options in defense purchases. Then payment issues. Okay, so that is another huge challenge in the Indo-Russia Defense Cooperation. How do we pay for the things that we are buying from Russia? Okay, earlier it was the CATSA sanctions was a threat. Then we went for the rupee ruble arrangement. That is, rupee is the Indian currency, ruble is the Russian currency. So instead of in dollars, we will pay in rupee and ruble. Okay, they will give us ruble, we will give them rupee. That kind of an arrangement. That was the idea, instead of dollars. But Russia has gone out of SWIFT. What is SWIFT? SWIFT is, it is Society for Society. You can just write down Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication. Okay, Society for Worldwide Interbank Telecommunication System. Okay, that is SWIFT. It is actually a messaging system, basically speaking. So it keeps a record of all these financial transactions between countries. Okay, so how much money has been credited, has it transferred, who has received it? All this messaging happens through SWIFT. Now Russia, due to the Ukraine war, has been removed from the SWIFT. So now we cannot have an update on the transaction we have with Russia. So all these are challenges, ongoing challenges in the Indo-Russian Defense Cooperation. Okay, I hope that is very clear. So like I said, so this is the scenario. Russia is a very strategic partner in the defense sector, but there are so many challenges we are facing it. Okay, so how do we make the best scenario out of it? So what we have to keep in mind is, Russia has always remained India's tried and tested partner when it comes to defense deals. Keeping in mind Russia's importance to India's security needs, India must follow the strategic autonomy in terms of engaging in defense deals. So just because America is threatening with sanctions, India should not move totally away from Russia, because always Russia has stood with us. That is something I said in the beginning also, right? So Russia has been our all-weather partner. So we shouldn't be abandoning Russia, but at the same time, we should reduce our reliance on any foreign country when it comes to defense, to retain our autonomy. So Make in India has to be pursued, but we can do trade with Russia also. So that is the kind of conclusion you can have on the Indo-Russian defense scenario. So very interesting. Did you know section? So India-Russian space cooperation. So if you know, this is an example of our long-standing partnership. The first Indian cosmonaut. Cosmonaut is the name given to people who travel to space from Russia. Astronaut is those who travel to space from the American spacecrafts. So Indian cosmonaut was Rakesh Sharma. He flew in the Russian Soyuz spacecraft in 1984. So that is a huge landmark achievement for India. It happened because of Russia. And even the first satellite launch, India is currently a huge player in the satellite launch vehicle technology. But you have to remember, it all started with launching Aryabhatta again on the Russian spacecraft Soyuz. Okay, so this was the old USSR days, but it's still worth remembering it. Okay. India's deal to buy the S-400 Triumph air defense system with Russia faces the threat of sanctions by United States of America under which of the following legislations or defense agreements? Okay, so I am starting the poll. Okay, so you can respond quickly. So you have to remember which is the particular agreement we mentioned, which the America is using in this context. Okay, the poll is ending. Okay, so very good. Almost 90% of you have marked the correct answer, and the correct answer is option A. So countering America's adversaries through Sanction Act. So I said no. Iran, North Korea, Russia. So if countries enter into agreement with any of them, America will impose sanction. That is it. So Becca, these three are crucial defense agreements that America enters with a significant defense partner of America. It has entered into all this. It has ended in with India on all these agreements. Becca means it's a basic exchange and cooperation agreement. So it involves sharing GPS information about the operational platforms of America. So it helps in much easier exercises between both countries. Communications compatibility and security agreement. So that is also sharing the information, communications between during exercises. Logistics exchange memorandum of agreement. That is about sharing the bases, the operational bases or naval bases between countries for refueling and exercises and all that. Okay. So India-Russia defense cooperation is crucial for India's strategic autonomy and indigenization of India's defense sector. Discuss. Okay. So introduction can be about the Indo-Russia defense cooperation. How was it and how is it going in present times? You can just make a mention of it. Then in body you can say how crucial is Indo-Russian defense cooperation for India's strategic autonomy. Okay. So strategic autonomy with respect to USA, with respect to China, Pakistan, and all this, how Russia becomes important because Russia has been an all-weather partner for India, and how for defense indigenization. So I said no about this AK-203 technology transfer. Only Russia does that. Okay, so we don't have so much of technology transfer agreements with other foreign countries when it comes to defense. So Russia is one country that is willing to give their one of their best technology, AK-47 and all that is one of their best technology. They're transferring that to us, and that will help in defense indigenization. What is defense indigenization? Making our own defense products within our country. So Russia helps in that also. So you could mention all that, and hence as a result of all these positive things, why we should still continue and at the same time pursue our own make in India initiatives. Okay, that is how you can conclude it. Moving to the last topic, growing space tourism, risk to the climate. Again, a very short topic, but a crucial topic which you can keep in your mind, especially for essays. Okay, especially with respect to how climate change is getting affected by human activities. This could be a very crucial example you could keep in mind. So, the context of the topic is a recent study published in the journal Earth's Future discussed that the blooming space tourism industry can have a far bigger cost on the environment. That is the basics of it. This is what we are going to discuss. What is space tourism? That is what we have to understand first. Space tourism means using space, or the space is the air above the atmosphere, the layer above the atmosphere, or the place above the atmosphere, using that for recreational purposes or for tourism purposes. That is a plain simple meaning. So space tourism seeks to give tourists the ability to become astronauts, that is go to space and experience space travel for recreational, leisure or business purposes. So this is again a rich people problem, right? So we don't have even money to travel all around the world, but now people are thinking about going to space, right? So jokes aside, but that is basically what it is. So number of private enterprises like Virgin Galactic, SpaceX, Blue Origin have started space travel. So this is the context within which we have to interpret this study. Okay, so the study says that the booming space tourism can significantly affect climate. And what is the reason for that? The many of the companies, Virgin Galactic related to, I mean, it's the company of Richard Branson, very famous entrepreneur. SpaceX is of Elon Musk, and Blue Origin is of Jeff Bezos of Amazon. All three are big names in the entrepreneurial world. They are all starting space travel. Very expensive, extremely expensive affair, but it is happening. Okay, so now let us look at the study in detail. So how did the study happen? So what the study did was, it was a study jointly done by MIT in US and the University College of London. Okay, so first of all, they compiled an inventory. Inventory means the entire stock of the chemicals from all the 109 rocket launches that happened in the Earth's atmosphere in 2019. Okay, in the year 2019, almost 109 rocket launches happened from Earth. Okay, so they collected the entire list of chemicals that were released from these rockets during that rocket launch into the Earth atmosphere and into the space. That is the first data they have. Secondly, they projected the growth of space tourism. Okay, they projected how much this industry of space tourism will grow in the next 10 or 20 years. Second data. And both these data, this chemicals data plus space tourism data, they put into a 3D model to examine the possible impact on climate and the protective stratospheric ozone layer. Okay, very smart study, very logical study. Let us see what the study came about with. So these are the study findings. So these study findings, it is better to remember it. You could very strategically use this information in some answers. First of all, space tourism is fast growing. Okay, so that is why so many companies are coming there. From US dollar 350 million in 2019, the industry is forecasted to grow more than US dollar 1 trillion. 1 trillion, it's huge amount. I don't want to write it down here. So 1 trillion by 2040. Okay, so it's a fast growing sector. Second is the impact of rocket pollutants. The environmental damage caused by rockets is far greater as they emit gaseous and solid chemicals directly into the upper atmosphere. Okay. So here I'll give you some context. So whenever there were questions about space tourism, booming space tourism, will it affect our already very weak climate or already changing climate? So most of the supporters of space tourism were saying that the number of space rockets are very less. Every day, almost every year, almost 1 lakh flights are there. So and rocket launches in 1 year would be almost 100. So how can you compare the impact of chemicals from space rockets? It is very negligible. But the problem which the study identified is that the space rockets are launching these chemicals into the very crucial upper atmospheric layer or the stratospheric layer, which contains ozone. Okay, so so we have managed to put a hole in the ozone layer on top of Antarctica from down below. Okay, through our small factories on the earth, we managed to put a hole in the ozone layer, which is located somewhere around 25-26 kilometers from ground. Now with the space rockets, even though they are less in number, they are throwing chemicals directly at that layer, at that level. Okay, so hence the impact become much more powerful. Okay, so that is one major finding of the study. Third is indication of depletion above Arctic. Space tourism's current growth trends also indicate a potential for depletion of ozone layer above the Arctic region. Why do this depletion happens? Because of pollutants from the rockets, the heating caused by the spacecraft returning to Earth, and along with the debris caused by the flights. So these three things are currently causing a depletion of ozone around the Arctic. The older one was on the Antarctic. Now we are managing to put a hole above the Arctic also. Wonderful, right? So that is a challenge we have to see. Okay, so these are the three major findings of the study. The sector is fast growing. The rocket pollutants, even though they are less in number, it is much powerful because they are throwing these chemicals directly at the stratospheric layer. Third is ozone hole is being witnessed around Arctic. Okay. And fourth thing is black carbon soot. These soot particles, which are really black carbon, means the black ash, which see, when just take a paper and you burn it, what remains is the black carbon soot. Okay, that dark color material. It have a far larger impact on climate than all other sources of soot combined, as the black carbon particles are almost 500 times more efficient at retaining heat. See, what is our concern with global warming? So when you release carbon dioxide, it retains heat and heats up the atmosphere. So the space tourism is releasing so much of black carbon into the upper atmosphere. So it has a capacity of almost 500 times more than the carbon dioxide in trapping heat. Okay, so global warming could go possibly 500 times more if space tourism becomes a big thing. Okay. Then the incorrect comparison between aircrafts and rockets. So this is what I explained earlier. 2020, there were only 114 orbital launches. There were 1 lakh flights. So how can you compare it? The comparison is because the soot particles from rocket launches have much larger climate effect than other aircraft and earthbound sources. All the rest of the pollutants, they play low. They play from down below at the earth. But the space launches, they directly attack our protective ozone layer. That is our concern. Okay. So those were the major study findings. What are the concerns raised by the study? The researcher says that if in the 3 years of additional space tourism launches, the rate of warming due to release this black carbon soot would more than double. Okay, so currently the black carbon soot released by these rockets are causing a level of warming. In the next 3 years, if space tourism is going like this, the warming will double. It's a very scary scenario. This is because they are using fuels like kerosene and synthetic rubber fuels. Extremely harmful fuels are being used. Hence, that could happen. Second is that the growing space tourism rocket launches could affect the recovery of ozone layer caused by Montreal Protocol. So this is the most what do you call disconcerting finding of the study. See, the Montreal Protocol has been the protocol to remove or ban ozone depleting substances from the atmosphere. It was the most successful environmental treaty ever made, which is ratified by almost 200 countries. So the progress that we made in Montreal Protocol was we kind of managed to fill the hole over the Antarctic, sorry, and that could be undermined now because of this space rockets. Okay, so that is all with respect to that study. I just wanted to put this study out there, which could be very useful in essay writing and some mains answer writing, especially in the environmental thing. So the way forward suggested by the expert is we have to regulate the rapidly growing space industry. The industry is not fully out there, it is still evolving. We have to immediately regulate because of the reasons we talked about earlier. Okay, so our last and final question. Let us do it very quickly. I'm giving you only 30 seconds. So with reference to space tourism, consider the following statements. As per a recent study, it was found that environmental damage caused by space rockets is far greater than other sources of pollution. We have discussed about it. Recall that. Secondly, the heating caused by spacecraft returning to Earth has potential to deplete ozone layer. Okay. So it is only 30 seconds. So please respond quickly. Okay, good. Majority, almost 90%, 85% has marked the correct answer. The correct answer is C. Both 1 and 2 is correct. Okay. So both we have said the damage caused by rockets is far greater because we are directly attacking the stratospheric ozone layer. Secondly, it can undermine the ozone layer also. So the last subjective question: analyze the risk factors posed to the climate by growing space tourism industry in recent times. Very easy question. So the major findings of the study is there, concerns raised by the study is there, we have to just list down. Okay, so how it will how the black carbon suit will affect, how the ozone layer will be affected, how it will lead to warming of the atmosphere, all these issues you can list down. It's a very plain simple question, nothing much to be explained there. Okay, so so that's all from my side. We shall now move to some of the questions. Okay, 1 second. Okay, so there was a question. What if this is related to the medical termination of pregnancy? What if married women want to terminate her pregnancy due to contraceptive failure? Is abortion legal then? So that is perfectly legal. See, when it comes to married women, it was the initial situation, 20 weeks, 24 in exceptional situations. It is only the unmarried women which was not allowed to do abortion earlier. Now that is also permitted under MTP 2021. That is the only change. Married women always had the thing, even due to contraceptive failure or other situations. Okay, I hope your doubt is clear. Sir, in India, there are many people who undergo surrogacy. It is the question by Sai. There are many people who undergo surrogacy without having any medical reasons. Are they not punishable under the law? That is a question. So that was a scenario earlier. Sai, you are right. There was surrogacy practiced by a lot of people. I said no because they don't want to go through the ordeal of pregnancy, the pain of it, without any sufficient medical. There were people performing surrogacy, but now onwards it cannot be done. Okay, that is what you have to keep in mind. With the Surrogacy Regulation Act of 2021, without a certified medical reason, surrogacy is not possible in India. Okay, in other countries it's possible, it is not possible in India. I think it is very clear. Sushmita has asked, is it okay to mention states or political party name in UPSC mains answer? Will it create a bad impression or something? So that is largely advice. I mean, it is you shouldn't write these names. So the reason why I mentioned the names was just to give you a context. Okay, it will improve your understanding of stuff, but you can stay away from taking the names of parties. Okay, so it won't do much harm, but we never know the evaluator to which party he he or she has a loyalty, right? We don't want to affect the sentiments of the evaluator. Okay, and we should also not be shown as a person with a party loyalty, significant party loyalty, because that won't be good for a bureaucrat who should be neutral to all parties. Okay, these are the two reasons why you shouldn't be taking names of parties. Okay, so Peter has asked a question. During pandemic, a lot of household which come out of poverty once again fell below poverty line. That is very right. So can we say that the pandemic also leads to exaggerated caste discrimination, and the slogan given by GOI, that is social distancing, which is not correct, also leads to caste discrimination? Okay. So I think the point made by Peter is, because of pandemic again, poverty, people gone below poverty along caste lines. I think that is what he's trying to convey. The question is not very clear, but what you have said is true. But there is no question of exaggerated caste discrimination happening from the pandemic. See, in India, what you have to know is, whenever we discriminate the economically weaker section, we are basically discriminating the lower caste. Okay, I would say almost 90% of people who are poor are almost at the lower caste. Maybe some percentage of the upper caste are also poor, but a majority of the people who are poor are the lower caste. So any economic discrimination is naturally a discrimination for lower caste, even though it is not intended. Okay. So Stanley has asked a wonderful question. Why Americans always use sanctions to punish countries? Can't they use other methods like soft diplomacy? So Stanley, so international relations, like politics, it is all about power and projecting your power. Okay, so America is acting as the most superpower of the world. Okay, it has been holding that place for quite long, right since the Second World War. To some extent, it has the opposition from USSR, but after USSR collapse, it's a unipolar world dominated by US. So US should always be projected, and everyone should be always fearing US. Okay, so otherwise US will lose that power of as that of a global power. Okay, so that is why they are always using sanctions or threatening attacks on the foreign soil. So they just want to show that they can do anything. Okay, they have the economic, military and the political might to do anything. So if you cannot say that you are powerful to do anything, then you don't have the ultimate power, right? So that is the reason they use it. They don't see, they will use soft power when it comes to certain things, but predominantly they are very muscular like that. Okay. Does Sri Lakshmi, there's a question from Sri Lakshmi, does Make in India involve the usage of Indian technology in manufacturing too? Because aren't there security concerns relating to Russian shell technology? Okay, so see, when it comes to Make in India, especially in defense, Sri Lakshmi and everyone, what you have to understand is our defense manufacturing is at a very nascent stage. Nascent means very early stage. Okay, so we cannot just on one fine day we cannot innovate or invent all this technology. So it takes some time. Okay, so you have to know how these inventions or innovations happen generally across the world. Okay, so I'll give you a best example. Or I'll put it in another way. So for inventions to happen, there should be some ground, there should be some base. So either you should need top class engineers or top class scientists for doing invention. Otherwise you should have a starting field, okay, or a starting base, which would be provided by this Russian transfer of technology. So when this Russian technology come, all the Indian scientists also will be trying to study that how AK-203 is made. They will understand that, so they will be able to make some spin-off technologies from it. Understand? So there will be a base technology from which we will also innovate. Okay, we are not going to just keep on using Russian technology forever, but we need some starting point, especially when it comes to these high-end defense technologies. Okay. How caste affects diversification of economy? Okay, so Banu, I think that is what we are discussing for that entire topic. So caste affects diversification. We discuss through mainly three ways. One, by affecting land ownership. Okay, traditionally people belonging to lower caste couldn't get access to land, When they didn't get access to land, they couldn't do agriculture properly. They could not use land as a collateral to do something else. Understand? So inequality in access to land made sure that they remained poor itself. Okay, so I'll give you an example. If you are belonging to a middle class or an upper caste person, you have some land, but you don't have so much money, but you have some land. So your children want to go for an engineering admission, you don't have money for that. What you will do, you will pledge that land. Okay, you can put land as a collateral, take loan, you can go for studies. But what will the landless person do, the person who belonging to lower caste? They do not have any collateral. Understand? So that is one predominant way caste affects. Second is by the policy thing. Was the policy predominantly helped the upper caste? Okay, upper caste were always in the education scenario. Since we focus mostly on the higher education immediately after independence, the benefits went to upper caste. Okay, so the mass education, since it was not focused, not so much benefits to the lower caste, because the lower caste should first get primary and secondary education, then only they can go to the engineering, medicine and all that, right? We didn't focus on this primary thing, we focused only on the higher thing. So people who already had primary education, that was the upper caste, they could move to the next stage, but the lower caste, they remained at the bottom. Okay, so that is how another way. And third was through networks. In India, see, most of the businesses still follow caste lines. If you look at all the billionaires or huge entrepreneurs from India, most of them belong to the Vaishya caste or Baniya caste, as we call in some region. So they come from business community. So they have business in their blood. We could say. So their parents have been doing business. Their grandparents have been doing business. So this network among business people, no, that is very strong. So if you have a shortage of 5 crore today, you could ask to a friend. Okay, but for a Dalit person, that friend doesn't exist. Okay, there are not so many Dalit people who have that kind of money. Okay, so the solution is we have something known as Dalit capitalism is being pushed forward, where Dalits will come together, they will support in lifting them to do better business and all that. So these are the different way in which caste affect the thing. Okay. Okay, so there is a question from Sanjana. So the reservation in private sectors is going on with a heated debate nowadays. What can be an aspirant's viewpoint on this? Reservation in private sector. See, first of all, when it comes to reservation, two things you have to keep in mind. First thing is you have to rationalize the existing reservation. There is so many things going wrong in the present reservation. Once you rationalize that and you come out with a better reservation policy, your suggestion should be to include it in private sector also. Okay, so what about the rationalizing part? That primarily, like I said, no reservation, especially among the OBC section, so many among creamy layer or well-off people are getting the benefit of reservation. So what happens is that even the poorer sections of OBC people, they don't get reservation. So the richer OBC are pushing out poorer OBC people from getting reservation. Same thing happened in the SC and ST communities. Okay, so this is one thing which we have to solve. So the creamy layer concept has to be, I mean, the Supreme Court said it has to be brought to SC, ST also. That is a good first step. Okay, that is one thing you can say. Second thing is about in private sector. How do you bring reservation in private sector? What is your purpose of bringing reservation? It is to bring lower caste into that jobs. Okay, it increases diversity at workplace, and currently global studies are showing that diversity at workplace is one of the crucial factors for innovation. Okay, from that standpoint, reservation can be helpful. Secondly, study after study has shown that reservation is never affecting the efficiency of a workplace. Okay, so reservation, see, generally people have a feeling that with reservation it is what do you call, unqualified people coming into service. That is not the scenario. See, there could be non-deserving people taking reservation, but reservation has not shown to affect the efficiency or productivity of a workplace. So you could say that reservation in private sector can be done, but in a very rational, logical manner. Okay. So is there any alternative similar to freebies? Otherwise, people will only follow party which gives freebies. This is a question by Shanta. So So, like I said, no, see, good governance is a good alternative. So, if you do good governance, you naturally get elected, because if you can deliver things that people want in a fundamental way, they will elect you. If you cannot do that, if you still give things that people want, not in a very fundamental way, they will still elect you. That is a freebie thing. Okay. So you could give things that people essentially want, or you could give things that people you could attract people. Okay. So one thing is roads, health, education. Other thing is smartphone, TV. So it is up to the political parties and up to the people. Okay. See, we have power. See, we have to realize that if we can exercise our voting power judiciously, you can change the politics of this country. See, political culture, see, we always blame the politicians for being corrupt. Who made them corrupt? Okay, or who allowed all these corrupt politicians to continue in power? It is we, right? We as a public, we as a voting citizens. So if we can conclusively or clearly give the signal that we are not going to vote for corrupt people, or we are not going to vote for people who are just giving unwanted freebies, but only people who show good governance, naturally the politicians will come in the right way. Understand? So that has been, see, take the case of example of Delhi, right? Delhi, I don't want to take the name of any political party, but there is a clear difference in governance in Delhi as shown by various government reports and media studies, that 10 years before Delhi, that there was traffic issues, the health, education, everything, the price of everything was over the top, but now most of them have become affordable. Okay, it is a work of a government, right? Leave the party, don't talk about the party, but it has a work of government, and that government continues to win elections, right? So earlier there were corrupt parties also winning elections in Delhi, but suddenly when Delhi people decided to vote for good governance, they started getting good governance. Okay, so that is the thing. Alka has asked, why is government not able to stop early marriage now these days? What is the main reason? See, Alka, and the thing is, see, we don't have so much control over these things. One thing is, see, somebody should report to the government, no, that early marriage is happening. First thing. See, mostly these early marriages are community or culture supported. Okay, it could be the caste or the religion. You have the support of the society. When you have the support of the society, how will the government come to know about it? That is the first thing. Everyone who is going for marriage actually believe in that early marriage, so nobody is going to tell to the government that early marriage is happening. First thing. Secondly, like I said, since the culture, religion, caste, all these sentiments are involved, political parties generally don't want to intervene. Okay, see, they know that early marriage is bad, child marriage is bad, but they don't want to create hatred from the community also, because these are all their vote bank, right? So that is a second situation. Okay, so we have to bring awareness to these communities. So there should not be demand for early marriage. That is what we have to stop, right? The community should stop wanting to send off their girl children early. That has to be overcome through awareness building, behavioral change, communication, and all that. Okay. Sai has posed another question. So, space tourism is causing a lot of impact on environment, and it is affordable by people of economic higher classes. Why can't people oppose it? So, Sai, the thing is, none of these things happen like that. These are all market mechanism. See, in almost all the economies of the world where free market or capitalism is happening, anyone can do any business. Until and unless it affects the health and safety of the people, most of the businesses are permitted. Okay, space tourism currently doesn't immediately affect the health or safety of us, and even the safety of environment also, not immediate. Okay, so you cannot say that you can't do space tourism. But if you could, if there is a study that could prove it could affect environment, it could fast track climate change, you could definitely regulate space tourism in the beginning. And if it is causing too much climate change, we could ban it. Okay, that is how it happens. People opposing it, who has the time, who will do it? There are so many other things for people to take up. No, so that is how it happens, right? Uh, uh, so let me see some more questions. Yash has asked, is there a policy made by government for general caste reservation? Yes, yes, there is something known as reservation for economically weaker sections. These are people who belong to upper caste but still economically weak. If you could prove that you are economically weak based on your parents' income certificate, your land ownership, the size of your house, etc., you can avail that. It is available in UPSC also. Uh, mm, Okay, Craft has asked, on one side climate summits are organized, on the other side space tourism has been encouraged. Why do America not sanction these programs? So I said, no, this is free market capitalism. Whatever brings money, whatever brings profit, it is fine until and unless it significantly affects safety and health. Mm. Shravan has asked why India's stance is very calculated on Russia-Ukraine war. I think I have already said that indirectly because Russia is a very significant partner of India. We cannot antagonize Russia. That is on one side. But at the same time, we want to support Ukraine also. Okay, so how do we do that? Right. On one side, you have your kind of best friend in the international scenario. On the other hand, you know that your best friend is doing a very bad thing. Okay. So if it at a personal level, naturally we can scold your best friend. But when it comes to international relations, if you scold your best friend will also do something against you. Okay, so you have to see, international relation is all about managing your personal interest, managing the national interest. So national interest is the highest priority of diplomacy or foreign service or pursuing international relation. It is not any higher ideal. Okay, so in olden Nehruvian times, we always aim for a higher ideal. Okay, the internationalism or larger humanitarianism. That is why we worked against slavery in South Africa, or we supported Palestine in the Israel Palestine scenario. But nowadays we we give utmost importance to our national interest. Okay, so that is why we have to be very calculated. Okay. So Argya has asked full form of MMR. MMR means maternal mortality rate. That means the number of mothers who die for every 1 lakh births. Okay, number of mothers who will die because of, for every 1 lakh birth. So in India currently it is almost 103. Okay, that means 103 mothers will die when 1 lakh births happen. We want to bring it down. Okay. Okay, so Bala has asked a question: where do the political party gets the funds to accompany or to the freebies? Is it from consolidated fund of the state or political parties fund? Good question. So the political parties first promise freebie before election. They give it only after they become the government. Okay, if they don't become the government, they don't give. So only the government can give the earlier promised freebies. So from where do they take the money? They take from the government funds. It is from the consolidated fund of the state only. That is what we said. No, we create unnecessary fiscal stress. There is an opportunity cost. We cannot spend on other things like infrastructure, education, etc. One more question, and we will end with that. Can you once again explain what SWIFT is? Okay, SWIFT is an international system for transmitting, for communicating about the monetary transaction. So India is one country, Russia is another country. Okay, there is so much financial transaction happening between India and Russia. So SWIFT is a platform which will give us the messages, the status of these messages happening as a result of these transactions. And it is an international community, and Russia has been taken out of it because of the Ukraine war. Okay, so I have tried to address almost all the repetitive questions. Okay, so friends, that's all from our side. Thanks for listening. Thanks for waiting so far, and have you a nice day. Thank you. Bye.